Two, one. Hello, lords and ladies of the internet. It is I, the King of Candor, and today I'm back with a podcast episode for you all. We are going to be talking about a post that I found on a D&D Reddit about 44 rules that somebody's game master had for them. Now, also, I'm going to be joined today by my esteemed panel of guests, and some more are going to be cycling in as we do. Since those 44 rules are not going to take up the whole day today, we're also going to share with you guys some of our most horrific and upsetting war stories. All the terrible situations that we've happened or had to DM through. So, why don't we start with our fellow panel hosts? Mr. Goat, would you like to go first?
Oh, hey there, it's me, Magic Goat. I'm still here, believe it or not. And I'm still just a guy that really likes TTRPGs, which means that I have some absolutely horrifyingly awful stories to tell that are going to be a lot of fun for somebody.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Next up is my fellow live streamer, Nebula. I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3 with him every Wednesday. Come out and see us one day. We're doing a little great playthrough. How you doing today, Nebula?
Trying to get everything we can. I'm doing great. Not much has really happened, but I'm excited to share the stories that I have been a part of. I've not been playing for very long, but I do have some very funny stories to tell, I think. Some of them do include a good bit of horror.
I'm sure there's a lot of horror involved. I've heard about the Euro games.
I was not a part of those. That is Goat's territory.
Well, that's really Pag's territory. I just know... Yeah. I'm just the person he vented to.
I am also one of the people he vented to, and let me tell you, some of these stories are fucking hilarious.
Yeah, they are. And next up, we have our animal expert, the much beloved Pops. How you doing today, Pops?
I'm all right, man. I got to tell you, in this heat today, I went out and played basketball for an hour. I am delirious, very sweaty. Took a cold shower. I'm still sweating, but I'm happy to be here as always. I think this is one of those topics where it's like it goes viral, and then like everybody else has a story that can relate to it. So it's going to be a lot of fun, like to kind of break it down and like see the parallels maybe in your own experience.
Oh yeah, and you were not kidding about the heat. Where I'm living right now, it is currently 105 with 100% humidity.
Oh yeah, the humidity gets you, as the dads always say.
Yep. But good news, the ladies dress agreeably around here, so we're all good. All right, and last but not least, we have Mr. Amazing Astronaut. Hello, Astro.
Hello, this is Amazing Astronaut reporting in. I hope everyone has been good. I'm going to listen up and hear some wild stories and comment on them.
The goal.
It really hit the nail on the head there.
All right, so we are going to wait a little bit on some of the... Oh, wait, there he is. Never mind. And last but not least for introductions is our local author. He's working on about 45 books right now. I also have to lower him a little bit because he joined late, and Discord does this awesome thing where it doubles everybody's volume. So welcome, Mr. Pag.
Thank you. Yeah, got a new book out, Scion of the Void, on Amazon. Go check it out. It's a post-apocalyptic fantasy novel, and I think it is positively neat. And yeah, like you said, I'm also working on a whole bunch of other stuff. I've got about 1 million things in the pipeline. I intend to write at least 3 books a year. That's my goal. And I've got 2 out of the 3 done for this year. And I'm about a quarter of the way done on the last one that I intend to write. So, might even get 4 this year.
And for those of you who want advice writing, come join my server. Pag is there, and he gives some fantastic writing advice. I also think I give some pretty good advice, even though I don't put out as many books as he does. I
don't know if I give fantastic advice, but I will give what advice I think is or necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, and a couple more things before we fully get started. So, don't forget, share the live stream with people. I'm not really able to keep pumping it around to everyone recently. I've been having some issues with this computer. I have to have a buddy come over and run some antivirus stuff. It's running kind of slow. I might have to clean it. So yeah, share the video. I also want to give an update on actual video production. I am working on a Dinotopia video. That's going to be done within a few days. I'm hoping Friday I can have it finished. I guarantee Sunday it'll be up, though. So I promise you guys that. It's Dinosaur Month, so you might notice that my avatar is a little bit different. That's because we're celebrating the Dino Month. I was informed by all of my young Zoomer friends and audience members that it's Dino Month. So since the kids want dinos, we'll provide them with dinos.
So true.
That's right. It's Jurassic June, fellas.
Exactly,
Get in the
Jurassic
spirit.
June. And while we're on that, a couple other bits of I guess housekeeping before we go on. The next book that we're reading for the book club has basically been decided. We are calling it is going to be Lord Foul's Bane by Stephen R. Donaldson. This is the first of the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant. I think the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant are highly, how do I put this? I don't want to say underrated because I don't know how good they are, but they are very much shunned and hated by the rest of the literature community. I see a lot of people talking about them, but they haven't ever read them from what I can tell. It's quite interesting. There's a couple, let's just say, not safe for work moments that happen early in the story that set up the main character as somewhat villainous, and he then spends the rest of the story attempting to redeem himself from these actions. I don't know if it's good. My dad told me he read them a lot when he was younger. He enjoyed them back then, but he doesn't remember if it was like a enjoyment because it was disposable or if it was enjoyment like Lord of the Rings. But he tells me Lord of the Rings stuck with him, whereas these things didn't. So I think it'd be interesting for us, or the more modern audience, to look at it and see, is this like a forgotten gem, like Conan the Barbarian was for decades, or is this something that should be kind of left in the dustbin? So, that'll be right around September is where we're going to be reading that book, so come join us. Or July, not September, I bet. September's something special. On that, there's also a couple other things. I know a lot of you who are fans of the podcast also are fans of EFAP or have at least watched their show. And if you're not fans of them, don't worry. This is not a problem with them. They recently did a tournament arc where they had a whole bunch of characters fight each other. I thought that was really cool. I also hated everything they did because they didn't know enough of the characters they were covering. I think Ghost Rider and King Arthur got totally shat on and deserved better. Because of that, me and Pag started talking and a couple other people, and we are going to do our own tournament arc. What we're going to do is instead, we're going to keep some of the similar rules they had, and I will explain them in detail for that actual arc, but we're going to have 16 people fight each other. And these people are going to go head-to-head and, slowly whittle it down. The idea is that we're going to pit things that are supposed to be more like each other against each other. That way it's more fair. I don't want to have, the Star Wars people fighting people from, I don't know, huh? What's the matter?
Don't worry, keep going.
Okay.
You were cutting out there for a little bit.
Just for you, bud.
Okay. I was just scared the heck out of me there. Sorry, we're back.
Astro. Astro being Astro.
It's all right. So, we're going to have the tournament arc. We have like things fighting like things because I don't think it's quite fair if you put Bilbo Baggins up against Darth Vader. That doesn't seem right for a fight. So instead, we're going to try to match everybody up against each other from some famous science fantasy universes. We're starting with Star Wars versus Mass Effect. We have a tentative list right now. I'm not going to reveal it yet, but give your suggestions of who you want to see in the ring fighting. I'm trying to do 8 people from Star Wars, 8 people from Mass Effect to keep it fair. If there's high demand, we will up it to 16 from each, but I think we're going to start with 8 and 8. Next week, we're going to have the whole podcast dedicated to us talking about them, putting them against each other, and finding out which pairing is more powerful. And this will start a, if it's successful, reoccurring show where every few weeks we will go out and do another one of these podcasts where we pair 2 universes or 2 settings or 2 groups of people against each other and see which faction comes out on top. So yeah, get hype, power scalers.
I am already hyped.
I'm literally crying in excitement. This is the sound of me crying right now in excitement. You just can't hear the tears. You know why? Because they're so excited.
perfect. Speaking of being excited, there's two huge pieces of RPG news and I guess updates that have happened. The first is Roll20 has bought Demiplane. Most of you have probably never heard of Demiplane, but Demiplane is a character building application that helps you design your characters for tabletop games. So you know how when you're trying to run through Pathfinder or D&D, you got to pick all your options and write them down and make sure that you don't forget the +2 from your class for climbing, but you get a -1 because you're a gnome who was born on Tuesday. No. This puts everything together and calculates it all in one character building application that you select the options for. It then loads them onto your character sheet and you're ready to rock. Roll20 bought them, and their goal is to take this software that they've developed, and hello, James, and take that software they've developed and put it on all of Roll20 so it'll be natively integrated, which means you will have character builders for literally every single game ever put out. That is kind of crazy.
Well, it's exciting, but let's not get too crazy excited, right? Because they did say it's going to take some time. They're still figuring out things. They didn't want to in the discussion, which you can watch, they didn't want to give too much stuff out. I can say from having
concrete dates yet.
No concrete dates. But looking at their website, there are currently 7 games that Demiplane has tools for. And they're all pretty big games. It's stuff like Pathfinder, Nexus, or not Nexus, Vampire the Masquerade. I don't know which version of Vampire. I know we talked a lot about World of Darkness and Chronicles of Darkness the other day, but I'm not sure which versions. And a couple of other systems that I've never interacted with personally.
I know Daggerheart's allegedly going to be on there, which is huge because that's the new Critical Role RPG they've been working on. I think Call of Cthulhu is also there. But yes, so like Artemis and James said, this would be huge. That you're trying to find a VTT. This would kind of put Roll20 in the running for #1 if it's got a native character sheet builder. Which that's good because they announced it now, like Goat was saying, and because it's announced now and they haven't finished it, this gives all the other people working on VTTs basically a shot across the bow, saying you're going to be left in the dust if you don't compete with this. Even if it's something like Foundry, where Foundry doesn't actually make the software, like the fans have to do it, but if they make the template that says, hey, if you have uploaded the rules into Foundry and you use this rules package, you can then make character sheets. That would be huge. And I think that this would really elevate D&D and the tabletop games kind of to the next level, because something interesting, this is from a game designer perspective real quick. One of the problems with designing a tabletop game is a lot of the best nuances and the little rules that you really, really want to screw with, you can't, because they're so fiddly and so annoying that most players will forget them and most people ignore them, because it's just such a pain in the ass to calculate and do this and all that. You have some people who, a lot of the guys here, I'll just say, are like that, who will go through the effort and calculate everything to the nth degree. I'm going to be honest, one of the our boys here, Mr. Pag, his game is like that. You can calculate things to such a great degree that it simulates realism to a fantastic measure. However, that's difficult for new players to get into. I've been playing in this system for, a year now, and I get it now. I understand how it works, and after going through a few characters, I can pretty much build my own character by myself. But I know getting on board is a little difficult. It's kind of, you'll forget things, and, this cap's out here, you don't remember it. Having a character builder would be great. Really help with onboarding new people.
Yeah, for sure. Being able to just slot in options and whatnot and have everything calculate would be fantastic. I mean, that's like half of the utility of playing online in the first place is getting one of those interactive character sheets that just fills it out. You just type in your shit and it just fills it right out for you.
And as someone who's designed several interactive character sheets, including for Pag's game, they are not that easy to produce. Making a good usable character sheet is its own struggle in and of itself. There are a lot of moving parts. Yeah, you want it to be easy to read, and you want it to look good.
Never mind one that automatically fills it in with a click of a button. The ones
Oh,
that
man.
Shadows designed, they fill on based on information you type in. This would require you to be able to have a master template. So you just click the button elf and it autofills all the elf stuff, which would be nutty if they could get that working.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to say,
I think.
go ahead.
Oh, go on.
I was,
No,
gonna
I was
talk
just gonna
chat.
say. Okay. I was just gonna say real quick. I think if they want it to be like something a ton of people can use, ease of like importing in information and stuff like that is really the key.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of systems out there. They can all play pretty differently. So having like some standard for like getting things to work is. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I'm interested to see.
I am too. And I think that them tackling this and trying to go for it is really good for the hobby. Because this is a third-party group that kind of wants to stay independent. Before I get into it with chat, so one thing I like about Roll20, I don't like a lot of their politics. I'm just going to say that outright. I don't want to get into the specifics, but I just don't like that. However, I like that for the most part, they're trying to stay somewhat more neutral, like a Steam, instead of jumping onto one game like what D&D's doing. D&D's trying to take their bag and go home and make a walled garden for only Dungeons & Dragons products. Roll20 intelligently is trying to say, everybody can come play in our sandbox. Even if some of their policies don't enact that, they at least want that to be the outward focus, which I think is fantastic. Now, to mention the chat, Artemis is correct. High-level NPCs in Pathfinder are incredibly different.
Sure, it could go easily wrong.
You're cutting out way too bad, Astro. Didn't understand.
Yeah,
a
Astro,
word
I think you
just
might want to
said.
rejoin and come back, buddy. You're coming in a little hot, my friend.
Yeah, man.
Okay, let's see here.
So while Astro fixes that, Black Rooney, it's okay that you don't have to super chat. I don't need your money, my friend. However, I think you might want to join the podcast next week because since it's Dinosaur Month, next week's Power Scaling. And the week after that, you might want to join because I might be making a video about your favorite giant lizard boy to help Dinosaur Month celebrations. So go have fun at
Indeed.
Lord of the Rings. And then James, James is one of the players. He's getting there. He's learning. I promise, James, none of the stories tonight are about you yet. You haven't quite earned the horror story category. So that's on Roll20. The other thing is Dungeon Coach's DCD20. His game, it's getting a lot of buzz right now. I think it's really interesting. And a lot of the guys in this call can attest to me, specifically, that some of the designs that he has that people are screaming is revolutionary is actually something I have in my game that I actually think I do better. I'm going to specifically call out his mana system. He's got a really good mana system where he converts things over, and he allows you to power up and enhance spells. I have that too. I have a special other thing called the siphon system that interacts with the mana system that completely revolutionizes the way you spend your spells and how you deal with magic. I don't want to get into that here. This is a public podcast and people might, snipe some stuff. But I'll tell you guys right now, if you're liking DCD20 and some of the ways that he does stuff, you're going to like my game. I will also say I do not like the way that DCD20 allows you to just basically modify your they call it, I think, ancestry, but your race in like any way possible. Those of you who have played Pathfinder 1st Edition, you probably remember the race building book that came out, which is one of the best books they made. In that book, every species ability had a point cost. In his game, DCD20, they also have point costs, and you could switch any racial species thing for any other racial species thing. So you could be a gnome who's got dark vision because you gave up your gnome Fey ancestry because you wanted that instead. Or you could be a gnome who gets the ability to get back up after dying like an orc because those cost the same points. I don't like that. I think that's a bit too slippery in terms of having a racial identity. How do you guys in the panel feel about that, out of curiosity?
I mean, what's the point of having specific individual races for you to play if none of it matters? Why even do it?
Yeah, I think it totally takes away from the entire, the fact that you build up your right based on that, and it's like you could just trade off any attribute of it to just steal an ability that somebody else would have. It kind of ruins the whole the whole of the race. Yeah,
I could see it being a trait that you could swap, one of them, but not all of them.
So don't like how it sounds like if you're swapping them, like no matter what, each attribute kind of like has the same value as another one. I don't think that really makes sense.
They have different point costs. So, like, being able to see in the dark is worth 3 points, but being able to cast healing spells would be worth 5 points. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So-
that's more akin to what I would expect. Yeah.
And I think the system's
So-
balanced well. I think that, ironically, the work he put into that, he should just keep those numbers and make a race building thing. Because I think having a mechanic to let you build your own custom races is already going to cover the, hey, I want to play a gnome that has a little bit of orc's blood in me. So just make a custom half gnome, half orc race that's unique to your table and your setting. That's really cool, and I think that fits the idea way better than, hey, you could switch any race thing out with any other race thing.
So I think the real issue with that is that you get rid of the identity of the different fantasy races in your setting when you
Hmm.
allow that. I personally I really like being able to build custom like races and species and having cool abilities. For me, that's a lot of fun. In most games, if I have the option to play a person or play a monster, I'll play a monster. But when it's just like something you can kind of do from the offset, nothing has an identity. I think a really easy way to fix it would be, ironically, another thing Pathfinder did, where there are like specific traits you can trade out depending on what
That
type
racial
of
traits section.
creature you are. Yeah, in the racial trait, like I know tieflings had like tieflings and Aasimar had like the biggest selection. It was like depending on what type of outsider you're related to, you get different stats. Or there were like, there were the Fey gnomes and then there are the crafty boy gnomes, and stuff like that. And that's probably a better way to do it. That sort of system sounds better in a game where like everyone is a robot, and you get to like build your body up. Just for like anyone can have any powers. I mean, you're gonna run into a human and you have no idea if they have random spells or if they're just a normal, like, you know what I mean? You
And they
you
breathe
never
fire
know
like a
anymore.
dragonborn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
for players that's also kind of nightmarish because it's like how do you like prepare for any given fight? Like how do you know what you're going to be fighting? I don't know.
It sounds it like potentially be enjoyable, but also it's I don't know. It's difficult to balance things like that. That's the issue.
Mhm.
Get to a mechanical and numerical balance with enough time. I don't know if it's worth it though. Because the time you're
Yeah.
spending to balance that out, you could be spending designing, well, more product to play. That's one of the problems that, ironically, modern D&D has. Because they made it imbalanced a little bit, they spend so much time trying to rebalance it for all their modules that they don't release any content. But another problem I really have, and this is something that's a personal hatred of this system,
Mhm.
your stats don't matter. Like, he's only got 4 ability scores instead of the traditional 6. They each affect a small part of your character. However, you get what's called a prime ability score. So let's just say I'm playing an orc. I boost my strength up. All right. So my prime attribute is strength. I use strength for everything now. When I make an attack roll, that's what I use to hit. When I am defending, that's what I use for my AC boost. When I am casting a spell, I use my strength to cast spells. Regardless of what class I'm playing. I can be playing a strength-based druid. I can be playing a strength-based sorcerer. I can be playing a strength-based warrior. And the problem I have with that is, immediately it saps all the benefit of having different stats. Whatever small
Yeah, what's
adjustments
the
you
point
get
if you
is
just have a
gone.
mega
Huh.
set?
Yeah.
So like only so one stat is what matters. Then most of your stats just kind of become irrelevant.
Yeah. And I did do small things
Hmm.
like, I think it's strength, health, intelligence, and charisma. And like having a high charisma makes it easier to talk to people a little bit, okay? Having a high strength gets you more damage in melee, I think. Having a high health gives you more health, and having a high intelligence gives you more skill points. So why would I ever not play an intelligence-based character? I get more skill points. Or a health-based character. If all of my prime attributes proc off that, Playing a charisma character is stupid. It's like useless.
Mm.
Yeah.
Ah,
I would
and
I would have to take a look at the system because I haven't been following this at all. This is all new information to me. But it does sound like the system kind of melts everyone into just like one soup, like one same character.
Yeah, one
Which
big homogenous lump.
Yeah, which can be okay if your group's into that. But I feel like that kind of limits the amount of like possible characters. Because usually
Mhm.
part of the fun is that different people are good at different things.
but I
Yeah,
do
it's
think that,
entertaining to be
Sure,
the
but
party's like lock guy. That's like why you play a rogue, you know?
Mhm.
and I think the idea that he had when he was designing it was he hates how in 5e it only makes sense to play the same character over and over. For example, if you're playing a berserker or like a brawler, or not brawler, what's it, barbarian, a barbarian, you always want high strength. Therefore, you always invest in your strength skills. Therefore, that's the only you make the same barbarian every time. And the only way you don't do that is if you play against type. I think that he is correct and wrong at the same time. I think that is completely correct for D&D. However, if you go back and play Pathfinder or go back and play 3rd edition, you will see that there are several archetypes and like alternate class features that you could take for those specific classes to give them other things. I can think immediately right now playing a dex-based barbarian would be phenomenal. I don't get why they have to all be strength-based. Use throwing weapons, use a bow and arrow. There's nothing saying you can't do that. You can't use like intelligent things, so yeah, you can't be a wizard, but you don't need to be a wizard. You know? It just bothers me because it
Yeah,
feels like a lack of creativity.
it kind of feels like fixing issues that other systems have fixed better.
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot of systems out there that have done a lot of fascinating things. Some are like travesties and are terrible, and some are very cool and can be refined. And it's fine to have your own ideas, and it sounds like this does have some unique, cool ideas that can probably be fleshed out. But it also feels like it hasn't really looked that far back to try and like get more inspiration.
That's the other thing. I haven't been following his development very closely, but I can almost guarantee you this is one of those. I see them all the time in the community. RPGs that reinvent something that was invented 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Go back and look at some of the
Mhm.
ancient RPGs way back in the day. You'll see a lot of the problems that we're dealing with today are fixed. So many, even in 1st edition D&D, has so many fantastic like things inside of it that would really make you blush and look like, wow, this is fully fleshed out. Like, you want to talk about how to balance a wizard? Is give them a wizard tower and force them to spend real world money, not real world, like real money to make spells. So now the wizard's always broke and always trying to get money. What does that do? That automatically reinforces the I need to go adventure scenario. So you ever wonder why players on like old modules it just says, here's how much money they get, and that seems to make every player jump at that because they had it back then where you had expenses. As a fighter, you got a kingdom, you got a castle, you had to pay your troops and get them fed, so you had to constantly be hoping you got some money, and it was fascinating. Another thing is, you might say, well, wizards were always stronger than fighters. Sure, but wizards leveled up slow as heck. It took twice as much XP for a wizard to level up as a rogue. So yeah, no shit, the rogue sucks. But the rogue's gonna level up to level 20 real quick, with the wizard still, shooting around level 9 or 10. It's like, guys, they had, whether you disagree with their balance, that's another problem. But like, you should look at their balancing things and try to figure out from there, like, why did they have that? What problem can we fix, off of that? It's been incredibly helpful for me
Okay,
going back and looking at that.
so I
Yeah,
want to pivot off of that. That is also an amazing thing for doing home rules. I know
Yes.
we said we would talk about home rules later, but I can tell you from personal experience, some systems they make it so you only get EXP from getting money as a way to encourage players. That's cool and all. I can tell you that in some games you can use that to your advantage. Setting different methods of getting EXP is a great way to encourage players to do specific things. Pag and Nebula can tell you about a game I ran where to get EXP, you had to spend gold on things that did not directly buff your character.
Yeah, I became a
Uh,
guild master.
yeah, Nebula became a guild master and basically built his own adventurers guild. And Pag effectively created a church on his first character. I think actually both his characters effectively worked on a church.
I
But it
helped
just
save you as much.
One of my favorite versions
Yeah.
of that is the oddities and curios, which is basically the only way that you can gain EXP is to find odd items and odd things in the world, and also to uncover like bits of lore that are not directly on the beaten path. It's the only way you ever get EXP. I got it from Underrail, which is
I was going
a
to say, Underrail took it from Numenera.
I see.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's a fantastic system.
Mhm.
You know,
Pop, you were going to say something?
Who?
You?
Pop was you were going to say something, weren't you?
Not really. I'm just saying, like, it's important to look back on, like, why the games became popular in the first place. Like, there's a reason. People knew what they were doing when they created these dynamics to try and, make sure the players were engaged, keeping everybody honest, trying not to, make it all one-sided, make one guy overly powered and everything. It's like, there's a reason that they got so popular. It's because people knew how to do that back in the day anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And something that you'll find as...
No shame in taking inspiration from the older stuff.
Absolutely.
Something you'll find is
As a matter of fact, if you're not, you kind of suck.
So something you'll actually find is you start like researching the old hobby, and this goes for more than D&D and tabletop. If you're a writer, this applies to you. If you're an electrician, this applies to you. What you learn is the results of the last generation who taught you. What they learned is from the generation before them. So you have a lot of times, like, knowledge is lost because they assumed that you know it. That's why a lot of D&D games just use D20s now. Why do they use D20s? Because it's a platonic solid, and that's the dice that Plato associated with the spirit realm. So when we're rolling the D20, we're literally interacting with angel. You didn't know that? Exactly. That's why it was picked, because it's interacting with the angelic realm and your spiritual power. What? You had no idea about this, did you?
Like specifically 20-sided dice?
Yes. All the dice have special powers. Yeah, because they're all the platonic solids. This is one of those super deep dives that's awesome to look up. The platonic solids have different powers imbued in them, and they are associated with like different metrics, like the platonic elements. So you have water, fire, air, earth, and then you have ether, which is what the D20 is, because it's the highest and the most powerful of all of them. Ironically, the D10s are not the platonic solids. All the other dice are platonic solids. It sounds like I need to make a video on this.
Well, that's very strange.
Yeah,
I would say so.
That's good.
That's some deep schizo lore right there.
In fact, another thing is a lot. Bye, Astro. Yeah, Astro's having some internet issues, guys. So sorry about that. He will join us soon when he can. Yeah. The platonic solids is an entire theory of the way that you can gain power and have different elements that can bend, because each side is a perfect mirror reflection of every other side, and you have perfectly shaped dice that, because the triangles always will be a perfect triangle made up of triangles. That's the D4. A cube is perfectly shaped squares that always make a square that are always the same shape. It's a whole mess of a theory. It's great. And it's a lot of, ancient powerful runes. That's why I used to call them Rolling the Bones, because of that. Gary knew this. All the guys who designed D&D knew this. Say something, Bobs?
Not really. Just there's a great song called Bones by Ray Wiley Hubbard, and it's about a dude with a pair of loaded dice who goes out to the back alley and at a dice game and brings home money every day. And the old lyrics is like, "Yep, shaking them bones, boy."
Yeah, and like that's where they came from.
Just a thought.
You were imbuing power into these magic rocks, essentially, and that's why it's so funny when you look at people who don't understand, and that's why they remove certain dice from their things. Like, oh, I only play with D8s and stuff. It's like, okay, I get it, but like some of the times removing these dice, you don't understand like there's actual like historical power behind them, and that's why certain dice did certain things. It's really neat because knowing that when you read the original AD&D books, you look at like, oh, that's why Gary had some of the most random rules ever. That's why like fighters have a D8, not because 8 was a perfect number for their hit points. It ended up being that, but it's because 8 is more earthly related, and that's why wizards have a D4 because it's more fire related. It's just stuff like that. You look at like, wow, that's really interesting how that game balance works out, and that's also why like rogues, a lot of their abilities are D10s and D8s because they're related to Earth or they're not related to the magical things. They're going against nature, hence they use D10s, which is not one of the natural elements. And you look at this stuff and like, that's fantastic. And I know it feels like I'm on a schizo, you know, the moon people are real, the lizards are out there rant, but like these are the things that they knew back in the day when they were designing it, and they were in the back of their head. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That is the fucking weirdest thing I ever did here.
It really is magical, the amount of like esoteric or like archaic obscure facts that
Yeah.
were used to like make other things, and you know they don't get passed on, but we know that they used this thing and there must have been a reason for it.
And it's one of those things where like
Yeah,
it's not
even
even like Gary came up with this himself because he just saw the light. It's like, no, the people designed the dice on the shape because that was the design of it. They wanted to show a platonic solid. So to show off a platonic solid, they had this. And then somebody, one of the, you know, it depends on who you ask. It's one of the D&D guys though. You know, sometimes it's James, who I covered recently. They will have it so it's like, hey, this is a cool shape. We can put numbers on the sides of this. Oh, and now it's a dice that we can roll. And it's just this weird, like, esoteric knowledge filtering down the ages. That's what I'm saying. Go study your history and go look up the like where things came from, and you'll find some crazy knowledge that's just like, wow, this is, you know, brand new. I'm understanding why things are so weird. Like, why do you know, there's so many instances in D&D that feel strange. Like the Ranger class, the reason it feels so horrible to play is because there's actually 3 classes duct taped together that's meant to be a prestige class. It was never meant to be playable. It was meant to be like you did all this weird stuff to get this special superpower thing. But it was so popular, they lowered its power, and to lower its power, they had to then also make it, you know, more available, but it still feels like a strange duct tape thing. Same with the Bard. Gosh, the Bard was a nightmare.
Same with Paladin.
Yeah. Paladins
And
used to be balanced because you
love
had to roll
Paladin.
high enough for them.
You had to roll high enough. You had to be. You effectively. The like idea of being a paladin was so much more interesting because now it's like I want to play a righteous paladin. Back in the day, it's you have to be a fighter and you need to also get some cleric levels, and you have to be righteous the entire time. It's not I was righteous all my training, so I'm a paladin. It's you've been righteous throughout the game until the point that you can actually unlock paladin,
And
it
you have
makes
to
it
have certain
so
stats that are
much
high
more
enough.
interesting. Well, that's less interesting, honestly. But yeah, that's true. Although it was easier to up your stats in those days since there were more wishes going around.
Yep. Yeah. Fascinating. Never mind. Here's another thing that
Yeah,
people don't know. So hang on, I'm going to get this.
Mhm.
It's a blow his mind. Psionic magic back in the day, you didn't get to pick it. You had to roll for it. And everybody got psionic magic. So every time you made a character, you roll a D100, and that's your psi potential. If you got above a 70, I think you could actually get psionic magic. So frequently, people will just keep killing themselves because they're trying to play a psionic character, but the rules as written say you have to roll for it. So they'd get a psionic character, their stats were right, and they'd roll too low on the psi chart.
That's one of those things that I don't miss. Like, it's super cool in theory, but in play, it's kind of awful.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was just really funny.
Yeah.
That's how they thought the world should work. You had to roll randomly for characters.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And I don't
that's,
think rolling
that's kind of thing
is
that's like, you know, oh yeah, your character died during creation. It's like, oh, thanks. Also, fuck this game. Like, why do I want to play this?
Yeah.
It's funny. As
It's
hell.
funny because I was going to say it's funny because it's one of those things that like the designers try to make people play the game a certain way, and then like it's either they're going to bitch and moan or they're going to like try and find some like life hack to get around it or some trick and try to bend the rules. So it's funny how it worked out like that, because it's like no way you expect people to engage in a game just to like kill themselves over and over until they basically have like a cheat code.
Yeah.
But it happens.
What's really funny about that is that was beloved by players. In fact, there's a thing that
Really?
All
That's
right.
funny.
Okay, here I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna blow you guys' mind with something. Have you ever heard of game mastery? As not like game mastering, like game mastery as a concept?
Yeah, as in the concept that like Pathfinder putting traps into the game essentially.
No. All right. So get
No?
this. So game mastery. Oh, like design traps, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you meant physical traps. Yes, design traps. You specifically put in terrible class options, so players pick them because they suck at the game. It's so funny to think about that.
Yeah, that's like how every
Yeah,
card game works these days.
I know that there are a few of those in 3.5, like the entire fighter class.
Yeah, except the first
and
level.
the sorcerer class in 3.5. It's really funny. The guy who made 3.5 or one of the people in charge, I think he worked on Magic beforehand.
Hmm.
And he claims that he didn't do that in 3.5. But if you've ever looked at the sorcerer class and then you looked at the wizard class, that's 100% what he did.
Yeah, the parallels.
Nowadays, sorcerers have like bloodlines and meta magic and this. In
Yeah.
3.5, it was wizard gets a feat every other level. Sorcerer gets no bonus feats. They get their spells a level later, and they know less spells. But it's just easier to cast spells for them, and that's it.
Yeah.
Before we continue, I want to call out Artemis, who sent us a $10 super chat. Thank you, Artemis. He says,
Shout out.
Hell yeah.
He says, how did DM have us players fight goblins who are powered up on a magical aphrodisiac? We then had to fight 600 of them in a small room, which took 3 sessions. And yes, we had to save pregnant women. What a beautiful story, Artemis. That definitely qualifies as a horror story.
Yep.
One for the ages.
You know
Let's
what?
not talk about the
Aphrodite.
I promise you, Artemis, you're going to have some fun with our horror stories later. I know a couple of them. I will give you a little spoiler or a little hint for mine before we get into it. Mine involves a player character strangling his girlfriend. Not because she did anything wrong, because he was tired of having a woman love him so much.
I can relate.
That's so relatable.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, I think
like
this is
me,
a
yeah.
fantastic moment to segue into the meat and potatoes of this podcast, the big and bones the reason I started this entire thing. The 44
That's right.
rules for D&D. Oh, yeah.
Strap in, boys.
Strap
Let me
on.
fix it in OBS real quick. There we go. All right. So, this is a post that and you probably want to click into the stream, guys, to see it. I'm not going to be able to share it otherwise. It is in council text if you scroll to the very top. It's a bunch of esoteric screenshots. I had to clip this together from one of those AI voice videos reading, like, my game master has this. They're like, just, that churn out content to try to get free clicks. I hate those videos. Stop supporting them.
Some of them are good if the story's good, but yeah, I believe the original post was taken down, right? So
Yes,
it's like a witch hunt.
I was able to find all the. I was able to find the whole post.
Oh, you were?
Oh my, yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. It got taken down. Someone had taken screenshots and posted it up.
Excellent.
Yep.
Yeah, I had to find clips of screenshots. I couldn't find like a full screenshot. But I got it up here. I spliced it together in PowerPoint, so it's on stream for all the lovely people to look at. Now, before we read this, I have read a couple of these already, just to make sure there's nothing like too icky. I want you to go into this with 2 minds. First, this is a player posting this, and he's posting it to like shame his DM. The second thing I want you to think about is what the DM had to go through to get to this point. So, from Kargath, my DM laid out the 44 rules for D&D. My DM just posted this after hiatus. Enjoy. I'll just put shit out now that's going to change before anyone goes through with anything. First, I'm timing turns. I don't give a fuck if it's unfair in your opinion, because spells are hard or you don't know what square to move on. You get 1 minute to know the actions you want to take, or I skip your turn. Now, panel, how do you feel about this rule?
This is the shittiest rule ever. Listen,
Yeah.
I've been
Wait.
This
no.
is
Hear me out. Hear me out.
What?
I've been frustrated at my players before taking too long. Anyone who's DM'd has had that problem.
Mhm.
And maybe like putting a soft time limit or like hurrying people along or being like, okay, we'll get back to your turn. We'll have someone who's ready go first. That's all good and fine. But being like, we have a hard time limit of 1 minute before you can like do this turn or skip, that's going way too fucking far.
I think
1 minute.
1 minute is too short. I think 1 minute is too short.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
Yeah,
But
time
having a time limit, I think, is reasonable.
I think a
limit-
time limit is reasonable.
Because
time
you
limit.
get guys who just sit around for ages doing fuck all, and it's like,
And
come
also-
on, guys.
Also, probably don't have that time limit in every fight. Because if you're up against a boss, you'll want to discuss tactics continuously.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. So having a time limit that's as short as 1 minute, all that does is kind of just make people nervous and unsure and possibly just, anxious. It makes it less enjoyable. And that is the point of the game still, is like, entertainment, enjoyment, and everything. Putting that much pressure on somebody as just 1 minute to make a decision like that, it's a bit much. I don't like it. I think time limits are doable, but it's over the top.
Yeah.
But it probably speaks to the idea that this guy had issues that were probably broiling pretty deep down for a while before he wrote up this manifesto.
We
Because
actually have a
there's a lot of
confirmation of that. Nevis in chat just says, as I understand it, people went through this guy Kargoth's blog posts and found them bragging about him and the other players, deliberately making the play hell for the DM and abusing him. Wow. All right, so confirmation, boys. This is a
Yeah,
abused
okay.
game master, so go into it knowing that this guy was very heavily abused. I'm not trying to insult the game master, by the way, for this entire thing. I think it's, because I think some of these rules are great. Some of these rules are terrible, but like we discussed with this first one, I think the core idea of take your turn faster, players, stop screwing around is great. And you might say at first, like, most of us did, that's kind of weird. Why are you pushing it to go so specifics? Oh, just wait. Wait till we get to like Rule 30. You're starting to see some crazy stuff. Rule 2.
Yeah, people don't just get this intense out of nowhere. Like, there's absolutely a whole dynamic
of
that
course.
44 bullet points? That's a lot. Rule 2.
Yeah.
If you want harder fights, bring a second character sheet and expect to twiddle your thumbs when you die. I'm not going to baby anyone. This is fascinating to me because this is saying that this is two parts. Players are bitching that the fights are too hard while also complaining that they get killed. That's really interesting. That means he's dealing with two problems here at once.
Yeah.
No.
Go ahead.
No. Go on first.
We've all been in those games where you wish the dungeon master was a little bit harsher, a little bit more brutal, because he's getting a little bit tired of just mollywomping goblins all the time. However, to then throw a fit and cry when you're not immediately brought back into the combat after you died, that's something special. If you get killed in combat 9 times out of 10, especially in D&D, that's a failure on you or the group. Somebody didn't plan properly. Unless your game master is horrible, for the most part, they want you to succeed. They want you to have a challenge, of course, and they want you to push the story forward. They're in your corner. They want to work with you. They're not going to make a fight unwinnable that you cannot avoid, that you suddenly walk into. And if they do, get entertained.
Yeah, or the dice just said lol, lamau, haha. Kind of like they did with us yesterday.
Yeah, me and Jesus
and
got
one of
ruined by Baldur's Gate's dice.
Yeah. There's also one other time. This is a friend of mine. They were playing in a game where they wound up as like a 20-something AC paladin. They were fighting like 5 crabs. Not like magic crabs, I think crabs. Or it was a bunch of crabs, like 8 crabs or something. DM rolled in public for everyone to see 5 nat 20s to crit him.
Dang.
Yeah, sometimes the dice just fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that could happen. But this rule doesn't quite feel like oh no, the dice screwed me.
Yeah.
It's always a game of chance where the dice has the potential to do that. But yeah, like
Mhm.
it's something that's left up to so much chance. Yeah, you shouldn't be complaining and freaking out or anything.
And here's
Yeah.
another really interesting one. Rule 3. If you call me or my rolls unfair, I'll get up and go home. And if you got to ride with me, you can find your own way back and suck it up. I really like the second half of that rule. Just get bent if you're going to insult me. It's so petty. I like it.
Yeah.
Very specific. That's like signaling out one or two players specifically.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know in his original notes he had parentheses, fuck you, Dave, parentheses.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Not gonna say any names, but Jim.
Go fuck yourself.
Jim, you're a
I'm
fucking
not going to say any names. I'm just going to point.
idiot.
Not saying it was Jimothy, but so I also like that if you call my rolls unfair.
Fucking
It's like
was.
that.
Go ahead.
It's like that Simpsons joke. It's like the teacher, whoever in the auditorium. He's like, so we're talking about a student. We're not going to say who she is, but let's just call her Lisa S. Actually, that's a little obvious. We're going to call her L. Simpson.
Yeah, that's a great one. Classic.
Bruh.
Yeah, this,
Yeah.
he really starts to get a little intense and starts to get a little almost unhinged. I would say like over the top. This one is a bit much. Like really, some criticism. Like I get it if people are going at you and everything over and over and over, and it's annoying. But I feel like this should be like an unwritten rule. Like this shouldn't be a rule.
And again, this goes back to what I said earlier. The game master doesn't want to screw you over, and if they do, don't play with them. It's very obvious that you're going to play with a DM who's just a petty tyrant. They're not very good at hiding it.
No.
Mhm.
Though
And
this guy really does sound like an abused housewife who just needs to stop DMing this game.
Yeah, he needs to get away from these players. Because here's another one. Look at rule number 4. I'm going to take your character's loot away as regularly as you want it given out. Rule 3 will apply here. It's fascinating that like he has to double down and say, I will also take your stuff. I thought that was a given. If you fight a rust monster, you got to know what it does. A disenchanter is going to ruin your life because that's what their job is. You know, there's a handful of monsters that are in the book that like that people online just the DM says fuck you, like black puddings and stuff. I get why they're annoying, but like they're kind of there because they remind players you are at threat of dying. Don't get cocky, kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, your gear can be destroyed just as easily as your life.
Yeah. And unless it's like your character's heirloom sword from like grandpa that's like super important for generations, I don't see why it's such a big deal for it to be destroyed, to be honest. You can get more gear later.
I don't know about that one, Chief.
I think it
having your
depends.
gear wrecked really, really, really fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Of course.
Like if it's something that like took you thousands of gold to get, that can be like sessions upon sessions to get, and having it just destroyed
Yeah.
fucking blows. It's real. It's
Yeah.
not something that you should just do to your players randomly.
Correct, I
That's-
agree. Don't just do it
Yeah,
randomly.
right.
Again, go back, like I said earlier,
Like-
if you're telegraphing they're fighting a thing that can destroy their weapons, and it gets destroyed, that's on them. They knew what was going in.
Yeah, and you should probably if you hand out something that's like overpowered, you should talk to your players and be like, "Hey guys, I did an oopsie poopsie right here, a little whoopsiekins. I'm gonna need to take that back from you or do something." And if the players are like, "No," it's like, "Well, okay,
Okay.
you're about to have a
Try to
good
be
time."
nice.
Doing something it is.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I'm
on
going
that
to have to either
specific note-
nerf it. I'm going to have to nerf the item. No. All right, then it's going to remove itself from existence. Fuck you.
Yeah, it's all right.
Oh, son of a bitch, the
that-
god of
that-
luck showed up and he's going to kick you in the nuts. Sorry.
Mhm.
Unlucky.
Yeah.
That's the part
The
that
Nutcracker has appeared. Prepare to have your nuts cracked.
Exactly.
Mhm.
It's like, what is it, the toll collector in Baldur's Gate that just kills you based on how much money you have?
Oh yeah, that guy.
That's amazing.
I
It
had
does
none of
extra
that game.
damage if you have too much money in your pocket, which is just hysterical.
Yeah. By the way, you can literally just put all your money in a pile outside and then just beat them the fuck up.
Yep.
And then pick up your money again.
And you know, that's cool. That feels good, right?
Yeah.
Like being able to do smart things like that.
right.
That's
Which
why you
is-
telegraph it to players. And
Yeah.
DMs, I promise you, Your players are literally not smart enough to understand the telegraph. I guarantee you, like, well, they might get it once or twice, but they will fall for it way more than you expect. Every person who's like a wicked, intelligent DM, I swear, players get hit with the retard stick. You become an idiot when you're a player. I don't know what happens. Even
True.
me,
God.
I'm an idiot as a player.
Bro, I
It's like you get-
experienced that recently in your game, where everyone was like, "Oh, let's loot the place, leaving this demon who's going to break out of paralysis eventually, and also try to mind control people."
Paralyze them for an hour. It's time to loot the place, when she said it would take 2 hours to loot.
Good
Yeah.
times.
And then he mind controlled someone, and everyone just let the mind controlled player walk around.
And do things. That was the best part. I was the mind control player, and I was
I am
just
so
like,
glad I did not jump down that hole, and I could come over, knee the demon in the face, and fix shit.
Exactly. It's great. Never
The best-
underestimate the
it-
stupidity of your players.
oh my god.
Yeah.
It like if something is really, really bad and you want your players to think of a way around it, you pretty much have to scream it at them a lot of the time. It's not enough to be like, oh, there's a weird acidic-y smell. No, there needs to be like a pile of goo with like a sword actively melting, or people aren't. And even then, people won't get it sometimes.
Yeah, I remember I remember a story that I heard online where some players were walking up to like a crypt or something. They saw this red field around the crypt, like this red AoE like zone. And they observed that everything within that zone, all the plants dead. There was a pile of bugs and small animals around just inside the zone, and they saw a rabbit leap into the zone, and as soon as it touched the zone or was fully in the zone, it died.
Mhm.
And then the story ended. All right, guess what the fuck the players did?
Exactly.
One
Damn right.
single guess.
And the sad thing is, I believe it because just I don't
Yeah.
know. Sometimes you
Dude.
just get people get lobotomized playing TTRPGs, and it doesn't make sense. And everyone is like calling themselves stupid afterwards. It's some type of bizarre phenomenon.
It's great, though.
I think on the psychological side of things, I think it's literally that like players can get so like dead set on a certain goal that you almost get like tunnel vision. You forget about extenuating circumstances, and like even things that literally get explained to you go in one ear and out the other, because you're already set on achieving the thing you were thinking about before, that you just miss every other detail.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it's hilarious, fascinating.
Anyway, what's the next rule?
All right. Number 5. Now, this is one that is going to be contentious, I could feel. If you don't act out any of your persuasion or intimidation or any other social checks, you fail before you even roll. You fail immediately because you aren't even trying and you're making the game lean for everyone else. I am very split on this one. I like the idea behind it. I hate the way he executes it here.
Yeah,
This
you
is
should
a
say,
one.
I'm trying to say X, and then...
Yes. Because I understand
But
that
I don't
not
think
every
you have to, like,
player
act
is good
out.
at that, but I feel like you should encourage people to
Yeah.
try to get it out.
Yeah.
I feel like this kind of takes away from the the escapist idea of like you're playing a game to relax and have fun and immerse yourself in a different world. But
Mhm.
like if you're a good example, I forget who it was, the video that you linked us about somebody talking about this rules. When he mentioned this rule, he said, "Well, I don't have, let's say, level 10 charisma. My character does. Like I don't know how to act that out." Like that's where it starts to become a little difficult for people to commit to things like that, because like it's a character. It's not you. Like it doesn't hurt to want to act stuff out. Like obviously it can be fun and everything, but the idea that you're being like forced to throw yourself into that role that you might not even be able to relate to is what makes it an issue.
Yep. And goodbye, GG. He just appeared on us. And to answer Pops' question, that is Jacob from XP level 3. I like Jacob. One day I would love to meet him. Him and his wife seem like very pleasant people. I don't think we get along politically, but that's okay. We're here to play games together. He seems like a very fun fellow.
So Nevis in the chat just said something that I very much agree with, and is also kind of my point of view. It very much depends on the game. In
Yes.
some games, it's fine to make the players act out, or at the very least, I do agree, at the very least, players should say what they're trying to persuade. at least like have an idea of like the end goal, because there is a big part of escapism. I think bards are cool thematically because they're music based. But if the GM told me if you're playing a bard, you're gonna have to write your own songs and play your own music, it's like, well, I'm not very good at that. That's not what I want to play a bard because I like music, not because I'm good at music.
Exactly.
Mhm.
I suck at
Yeah.
music. Now,
Yeah.
to give a little bit of a steel man here, I do think that a lot of players just roll the dice and expect it to be an I win, and I hate that. If you want to, like, as a game master, stop players from doing that, just ask them, what do you want to do? You don't gotta give me the full like breakdown and have a conversation, but walk me through what your goal here is. And I find a lot of times that little bit of, hey, player, welcome back, Gigi. Hey, player, tell me what you're going for, is enough of a comfort zone for them that they get it. At that point, they walk back in and say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. Here's my goal here. And it makes them just feel that little bit better.
Yeah, there's a level of engagement you want to have as far as like playing the character goes. But like it's another one that I think like this should be more or less an unwritten rule, like kind of just you nudge the guy, hey, come on, like give us a little something here. Like but
Yeah, it is a role-playing game, after all.
Yeah.
there's like a level, it's like it crosses a line sometimes into like it's all right, obviously I can't play music or something like that it gets
But again,
to
if you
be
just tell them, hey, I'm game master, I'm trying to play like a rock tune, am I allowed to do that? That's all I think you need as a game master. Like, yeah, I know what you're trying to go for. Because I get it. It's sometimes the game master, you're doing so much shit. It's like, I don't want to have to pretend to know what you said. Just give me an idea of what you're going for. On that next thing, let's jump to Rule 6. This is a really interesting one for me. If you don't pick up cues for side quests, that's not my problem. Get over yourself. It's not a video game. It's a role-playing pen and paper-based game with miniatures. I'm not holding your hand if you choose not to pursue shit. I don't even know why this is here. Your players are going to, like, it seems like the players are complaining. Yeah, the players are complaining they haven't picked it up. That's on the players. Why even mention it to them?
Yeah.
Are they complaining they missed your content?
Yeah.
Screw them.
I don't get it at all. Like, unless the GM is saying, "Oh, you missed all of these things," right, or something weird like that, I don't see why this would be listed. This has to be like another one of those rules that is a specific gripe against something the players are doing.
Yeah, it's probably. I would guess it's probably the players complain about not getting side quests, and it's like there have been side quests. You've just missed every single one of them.
Yeah, you guys just wasn't paying attention.
This is one of the mentions where I'm like, there's got to be a great story or some horror story behind.
Exactly. That's why I said it's interesting. Rule 7 is funny. If you move into a square in combat, there's no takebacks. I both hate and love this rule because I understand what's going on here. I think the players are like, it's telling you, stop fucking around, be a bit more decisive. However, sometimes players, and I've done this too as a game master, I'll make a move and I realize, oh wait, my ability says it procs from 30 feet, not 35 feet. I should stay 5 feet back. I think to me, it's just a flat out bad rule here.
Yeah, it's a very petty rule. This isn't professional chess.
Yeah.
It totally depends on me, for my opinion. If it's an honest mistake, something like that, then yeah, okay. But at the same time, I mean, this, something that pisses me off to no end is people doing the thing where like, oh, my character does this, and they're saying it like as a joke or as a gag. It just slows the game down, and it's just it later on sets up a thing where the player can say, oh man, I was just joking. I didn't really do that, when the obvious consequence of their action is that they die. So
yeah.
Yeah,
I would say
I don't know. I can see where he's coming from. It totally depends on the situation. Totally.
Yeah. Because if it's more casual and everyone's just joking around, like sure, like moments can happen where people say a joke or makes a mistake and says, "Oh shit, hey DM, actually I wanted to do this." That's one thing. It's like a little more casual and jovial, but when you get into the more intense settings, it's ridiculous to have that like takebacks and everything. So I'd agree it depends.
Yeah. Now, Rule 8, this is something I 100% agree with, and I want to give this GM a medal. You tell every single person what you're doing before you do it. You don't fucking roll dice and then say you're casting Fireball. You tell us all. I cannot tell you how much this pisses me off. When the players roll some dice, like, what are you doing over there? Oh, I'm shooting him. Were you going to tell me? You're rolling your damage. You didn't even know if you hit yet.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree with that.
And the
So you
maybe
should be
you
able to do things in secret from other players.
If you want to
Yeah.
do it in secret from the other players,
Like-
that's fine. But that's why it's for me as Game Master. I have Discord open. I got my phone open. My players will text me if they want to do something secret, and I'll kick out the other players. Say, all right, mute yourselves, everybody. I have to talk to James for a second. All right, everybody get out. Sam needs and me need to talk. Or if it's when I used to play physically with people, I'd say, okay, you guys sit here. Me and Mike are going in the other room for a second. And just come back, and they don't know what happened, and they learn not to ask, because if they asked and they push the other player, I have the gods just punish them. Like, leave the player alone. That's meta knowledge. In character, if you figure something out, I'm gonna be honest, not many of my players are really good at lying and telling secrets. So like in character, you're probably able to figure it out quickly, guys. Relax. I also won't let them do something like, oh, I kill the entire party, take all their loot, and sacrifice them. Do I level up? Like, no, they're not doing that crazy. So relax.
Nothing that insane.
No. One player, though, that's a different story. If it's a building animosity, I mean, sometimes, but not just going to TPK the party where no one's looking.
And people can preemptively roll as an honest mistake. I know, especially we tend to play later, and we're all getting old, so we're all sleepy old men. I say even though no one here is above 30.
What's nervously above 30?
Anyways, but honest mistakes happen. But yeah, if you're gonna do an action, you should probably declare it, because that's kind of how the game works.
Yeah,
this makes sense. Again, should be an unwritten rule, though. I don't know what type of wife abuse this is, domestic abuse of the
So
GM.
speaking of domestic abuse,
heard this bad.
Rule 9 is my favorite rule, and that is because for the second half of it, I will give out exhaustion more frequently. If you argue, go home, or you could actually fight me over it, or you could DM yourself. I love the idea of he's saying, if you think that you won't get exhausted, let's fist fight right now, and I'll prove it to you.
No, I respect the commitment to it. I feel like sometimes, exhaustion, obviously it makes sense. I guess if people complain that he does it too much, or he does over the top exhaustion in a given situation, I understand why you might get mad, but it's one of those things you have to understand that that's part of the dynamic. That's part
So
of
I think reading between the lines here, this is him giving exhaustion after multiple fights. Because I know players that go out and have 90 fights in a day. That's not realistic.
Yeah. I can see after multiple fights, but if it's every fight, then that's just bullshit.
Exactly.
This
There's
is
a line
giving me
here.
a great idea for a homebrew rule where if you after so many rounds of combat, everyone gets exhaustion. That sounds like that could be well, it would be awful, but it could also be entertaining. It would very much depend on the game, but I feel like you could do cool things with it, but you'd have to balance it pretty carefully.
So
Just
it's
hearing
funny you
that
say
makes
that.
me actually want to strangle you.
So it's funny you say that, Shadow, because I have seen that rule, that exact phrasing of it used once, and I know Pag's with me, he wants to kill you for it. However, this one time I saw it worked well. It was saying this is the Dark Souls tabletop game, and that only happens after you've quote died or gone unconscious once, which makes you hollow. Now you get debuffs for fighting too long. That's the only time I've ever seen it work well. I don't think I'd still ever do it. It's not worth the headache.
It would be a headache. I'm just thinking of interesting way, because that's a thing in actual fights, in any prolonged fight, you watch boxing matches, they try to tire the other person out, but there'd have to be a way to do that reasonably.
Yeah, I mean, because fighting men back in the medieval era, they would fight for hours and hours and hours and hours at a time. And yeah, a guy like that versus a fresh guy, he would definitely be not so well off. But we're talking about rounds of combat or bouts of combat that are minutes long at best. You fight for 4 minutes. So it's I don't know. Most of these guys, my fucking 18 Constitution superhuman barbarian should probably be able to go I don't know 70 fucking combats before he's upset.
Yeah. Does it depend basically on level, on your health stats, on your character?
This would be theoretical. There's
It's a whole system we designed. Well, let's design it later, because I think rule number 10 is funny, because this is a rule that Pag's going to say yes to, but I personally hate in my heart. Rule 10. Every snide comment you make to an NPC, we remembered and paid back in triplicate. You all seem to believe there is little consequence.
This rule is totally fine. Let's move on.
I kind of agree.
I don't really see a huge
I,
problem
on
with
its
this rule.
face, it makes sense. Yeah.
Well, it's again, if you
I mean-
tell the NPC, I hate you and I'm going to kill you, yeah, he's going to remember that. I'm sorry. If you call him,
Yeah,
a little molesting goober, he's not going to be happy with that later.
Yeah, and it depends on the NPC though. Like some NPCs are gonna like smile and laugh and be like, okay, and some will be like, I will find a way to kill you for this. I swear to God. So it just depends. Just depends.
Yeah, it totally depends. Because it's like, you can just scuff an NPC's J's and like he's probably not going to kill you, but
Mhm.
you have to be ready for some sort of comeuppance, and I respect that as like a dynamic, having there be more like pronounced consequences, especially if people were getting to the point in this game where they were, just being straight up asses to everyone.
Mhm.
Here at first, boys, Rule 10, the first 100% we agree. Rule 11, I also 100% agree with, but I'm really curious as to how. You will not be given a mega dungeon every session. A temple is not the size of a small city. Neither is a cave. This shit will happen when it's natural and organic. Go play some roguelike if you want that. What is happening at
I
this
don't,
poor
I don't
man's
see
table?
how this is. Yeah.
Like,
What are
my
they,
players...
just like, oh man, we just got out of this dungeon. Where's the next dungeon, Chief? Like,
It's such a bizarre rule. This man was
Yeah.
abused in some way.
mhm.
Also, as someone who's made their own mega dungeon, let me tell you, it is not fucking easy. Like an actual mega dungeon,
difficult. Yeah.
they take
That's-
a lot of time. My mega dungeon was 4 floors, and by the 4th floor, I was ready to give up. And this was like for those first 3 floors was a year-long campaign.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you could even go through a mega dungeon in one session. Though he
Unless
probably
you're
has
rusty
some specific definition of mega dungeon that we
Yeah,
wouldn't
I
know.
think the only way to get through a mega dungeon in one session is the meme 5 dwarves dig through the fucking
Yeah,
mountain.
dig through the
Exactly.
dungeon.
So like,
I
this
think,
tells me, I think this is a bigger issue that the players just want more fighting. And it's really interesting because if you look at number 12, the travel portion is done. You want to travel continents, doing whatever you want, whenever you want. Go play World of Warcraft or play D&D with ChatGPT. So this tells me that, if we're being on the player side for a second, he's not giving the players good enough hooks. They want to kill stuff, and they're bored in the current location they're staying in. I'm wondering if he's trying to run like a political game, and the players just want to kill shit. Because those two together tell me there's something disconnecting going on here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Rule 13 is something I agree with completely, and we're going to implement it tonight. If you're late with no good reason, I'm having your hit points for the entire session. Great rule. No, I see no problems with that.
No issue.
I
This
don't
is
know.
totally reasonable.
Yep, totally
I
reasonable.
do not know.
Slightly late, kill your
No.
character immediately.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't. I think that you should never apply in-game penalties for out-of-game nonsense. I mean, I'm sure you guys are all joking in your agreement, but I think that
Oh yeah, we're definitely joking in the agreement.
if you want to kick someone out of your table for being consistently late, just fucking be a man, kick them out of your table. Just
Yeah,
be like,
that's-
hey,
yeah.
you stupid dipshit. Like,
Yeah.
I'm tired of this. Fuck
you know,
off.
you're as a game master. Hey, guess what? If you're the game master, you are at least 40 times as valuable as the other players. Because survey says there are 40 times more people who only play than who game master. You can go find hundreds of other players who are dying to play. They will buy you pizza and give you foot jobs if you just run for them. Get better people. You don't have to play with your friends. There are 3 or 4 people who are my friends that I refuse to play D&D with. They suck at the table.
Mm-hmm.
But I love them as people. I go on cruises with them and stuff. It's great. All right.
I know
Yeah,
exactly how that is.
This is one of those rules where it's like it represents, like, there's got to be just such a disconnect between the DM's intentions and the way that the players want to play the game that there's not really a solution that I'm seeing to like the problems that are made obvious through these rules. It's like you might just have to find a new crew.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, like you just have a bunch of asshole players. Like,
Oh, it
Yeah,
gets better.
ain't nothing to be done about that.
The assholery is just getting started, boys. Rule 14, if you don't show up for no good reason, and that will be determined by me alone if no one else has the guts to say shit for fear of upsetting one another, the first time, you find yourself either losing a whole level or 3 magic items that you own. The second time you do it, in a row, you'll be removed from the chat and the group full stop. I have no fucking time for people to not show up. This poor guy is getting canceled on all the time. Get new players, my dude. That's what's going on here.
Yeah,
they
for
suck
real.
and they don't care about you. Poor guy. I feel sad for the game master now. At first, I was kind of like, maybe he's being a dick. This is the moment where I realized, oh no, this guy's being just abused.
Yeah, I mean, there's literally so many players
Right.
that you can go onto Roll20 and like advertise yourself as a DM, and you can just find groups to abuse for fun over and over and over again. Run one awful session just for shits and never talk to them again. I'm not saying
Yeah.
that I've done this before. I'm just saying that theoretically you could do this.
Theoretically.
Websites that will pay you to be a game master. It's a paid position for some people. I'm not saying go do that. But if there's enough people who want game masters that they're willing to pay you, dude, you can go find groups who are willing to say, hey, I'll buy you food if you just game master for me.
Yeah.
All right.
This is
Yeah.
just a quick home rule thing. This is why I always like having Sus and Zeros in my game. Not just to vet out players, although trust me, we'll get into some stories later. Pag has some great stories about vetting out players with a Sus and Zero. I know a lot of people hate Sus and Zero because character creation can be very easy for experienced characters, or players rather, but like setting the expectations at the table is so freaking important. Great example right now. James is in chat. James is currently in my Monday game, which is it's based around Monster Hunter, sort of. Originally, he wanted to make a very politically focused character. It was a very cool character concept. The problem is that there's not really that much politicking to do because the players are out in the frontier, in the wilderness. If we didn't
It's a
have that
Monster
Sus
Hunter
and
game.
Zero, he would have ended up with a worthless character. It would have it would have sucked for him to play as that character in that environment. So even outside of like rooting out bad players and things like that, it just makes everyone's life better if you just have a Sus and Zero and you just go over these are the expectations for the game. And if people want to change that and you're willing to change things, that's cool too, but it's good to have that conversation.
Yep. I feel like a lot of these rules imply like that there was some sort of lack of communication. It could have been solved. Yeah.
Oh, wait. Rule 15 and 16, I'm going to read them both at the same time because they really should be something together. If you get too stoned or drunk to play, I will go home without a warning. Your warning is here. And if you get up for bong or smoke or whatever breaks every 10 minutes, I will pack up and go home. I'm sick of waiting for every bloke to be at the table. This poor dude. Think about that. These guys are just around him getting high and being terrorists to him. And now he's like, guys, stop getting high. I'm trying to run your fucking game for you.
This one definitely depends on the setting and how casual you guys are. Like, obviously, like, you could chill out if you're like, you're playing the game after work, after a rough day or
that's
something.
Called beer and pretzels D&D. It doesn't matter. You're throwing some dice, shooting some jokes. Like, that's fine. But this guy's clearly not trying to run that.
Yeah.
This is another thing that, like, probably if you just pull people aside at the beginning and say, here's the way I want to run this thing, here's what I tolerate, what's your deal, what are you planning on doing? I feel like they could have had this like squared away early on.
It's a Session Zero type situation. Immediately, is this group going to allow you to fuck around a lot? If not, then you get out. It's okay. I really hate Rule 17. Guidance, divination spells, owls, and whatever spells they decide are too fucking stupid or banned. Outright. No more fucking guidance. I hate that. Guidance is the only reason Shadowheart's in my party.
Yeah.
This is literally just a skill issue on the DM's part. Like
it really is.
You should be able to handle divination. Like divination doesn't mean you automatically get a correct answer. That's never how it's worked.
Bad guys know divination exists in the world.
Yeah.
They live in the world too.
He's literally just not running the game right. Like that's sorry, bud. Skill issue. Learn to run the game.
Guidance just gives you an extra D4 on skill checks. How is that breaking the game?
I think it's
why
also
are owls
rolls.
banned? Even the attack rolls is fine. Owls. What the hell did owls do? Is this something I don't know?
Guinea is
maybe
It would
something
be
similar.
owls plus share
Owls-
sense flying over stuff and getting information, I guess.
Oh my god! Wow, what a fucking like damp towel.
Yeah.
Listen, man, just don't run D&D. I know like 90%
Yeah.
of players want you to run D&D instead, but if like you really can't handle that for some reason or you can't like adapt around it, just run a game where
Systems.
that's not in.
There's so many
Yeah.
Yeah,
great
run a
systems that
different
don't have
system.
that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous because we feel bad for the guy reading like the last 10 rules, and then you get to something like this, and you're like, all right, come on, man.
Yeah,
That's
you
why
guys
it's
suck,
so
bro.
it's so weird. It's so weird trying to figure out how we got to this point as far as the guy writing it.
It's shitty players abusing a game master who's definitely stepped. And speaking of this, 18. I almost agree with 18, but I don't. You get one chance at the skill check. If you fuck up, your party doesn't get their chance to do the same check. Think careful who's good at what. I understand why. I also hate when it's 25 people in a row. Like, I guess I'll try the Arcana check now since everybody else screwed up. I get that, but like, who cares?
Yeah.
I think it depends on the
For real.
check. Like,
If it's something like, oh, you have one chance to salvage the vase, okay, then they fucked it up once. Nobody gets a re-roll. And if they do, they're like, oh,
Yeah.
I want to jump in there and quickly try to save it. Just up the DC and tell them, hey, it's going to up the DC. They're going to be fine with it if they want to still attempt it.
mhm.
I like
Yeah,
that.
and
That's
like,
just-
why can't the whole party think about something? You know?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I get like, oh, it's I hate those posts where people are like, oh, I can't believe the wizard didn't know what a fireball is, but the barbarian did because he rolled a nat 20. Okay, you ever have an off day? Like, sometimes the wizard's having an off day, and sometimes the barbarian's like, I remember this stupid thing. I mean, I'm not going to name any names, but there's a specific person who's an idiot who frequently surprises me when he has a random piece of knowledge. I'm like, how did you know this? How did you, of all people, know this? Thank you for this knowledge, mister.
An absolute savant.
And then he goes back to sucking eggs. So, this next one is really funny to me. Discussion of metagame details in-game will result in instant damage to your character. That is so
This is
funny.
clearly specific. This is
Let me read this. Yeah, hang on.
This
No,
means
go on,
that if
go
you
on.
tell somebody, "Hey guys, I know vampires are like don't like garlic," a lightning bolt will fly from heaven and just zap your ass.
Hmm.
it's
Ugh.
it's
No,
so
that-
funny.
That
I
How
like the
bad is
idea
it
that
metagaming here?
yeah, I like the idea that he lets your character have the thing, have the moment. You can say the thing, but you take damage. Like the idea of that is great. I hope that that's how he runs it, but I suspect that it's not.
Yeah, because if you did, I don't know. Like you said, if that was the rule, metagaming is allowed. You just have to dodge the lightning bolt. That would be a pretty fun house rule. Not gonna lie,
Yeah.
It's very funny.
I don't
one.
know. Yeah, it'd be fun.
but
But
I don't think
it's
it's
like-
here for fun.
No.
For a rule like that, it's like we would need to define a lot of things first of all before we even know how to enforce something like that.
I just do it based on vibe checks. Speaking of this, this one is a be a dick to them rule. I like it. Rules lowering fellow players is encouraged. Actuallying me will result in me telling you to fuck off. You can tell he felt like a Giga Chad writing this one.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
This is
I just-
silly rule.
No, he was foaming at the mouth as he wrote this.
Oh,
Yeah, he was foaming at the mouth when he wrote this whole thing. So yes and no on this rule. Like a lot of these, yes and no. It's good to have someone who's like an encyclopedia of the rules. GG is like an encyclopedia of the rules here.
Yeah.
It's nice to have him around. And if you as a DM are not an encyclopedia of the rules yourself, well, then you should probably be willing to accept people being like, no, this is it. And then, of course, Rule 0 is still in effect. So if you want to be like, yeah, I know that it is the rule, but also go fuck yourself, I'm changing it this very moment. Like, go ahead and do that. But, you should be willing to accept that.
it's always acceptable for the game master to be like, that don't work like this in my game. It's okay. Like you said, Rule 0. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one's a little confusing. You rolled 21. You roll your dice within view of two players who aren't you standard. You roll them neatly and you roll them on the table. Failing to do these three things will auto-fail whatever roll you did. Arguing that you actually rolled validly when you didn't is clearly an automatic critical fail. I don't understand the first sentence. You roll your dice within view of two players who aren't use standard. I don't know who use
This
standard is.
this
I
this
think
one
that's
is
just a typo.
Yeah, but I don't know what
honestly.
the tempo should be.
I think
it's just saying
standard
that
is
the standard.
yeah. I think that's establishing what the standard is.
Oh, aren't you standard? Gotcha. There should be a comma there.
Yeah.
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 So I really like this idea because like that means that your players are definitely cheating. Like if you have
Yeah,
to
for
implement a rule
sure.
like this, just I had to do this at my table. I'm not going to say who. I know a player was cheating. For those of you who've played my game, siphon checks have a certain amount of fail. He always passed every siphon check with flying colors. So we implemented a rolling on the app, with a dice roller for this, and suddenly the dice went back to normal. It's really weird how that works. Just use the dice roller if they think they're cheating. I'm sorry. Later on, he complains that players don't show up with dice. Just make them use a dice roller. And if they do want to insist on rolling the dice, get a dice tower. Dice towers are phenomenal because it's fun to roll the dice with a dice tower. You can hear all the clickety clackety thing, and you can't cheat with a dice tower. It's really hard to figure that one out. So just
Without being super obvious.
Yeah, get a dice tower and tell them they have to roll in it. Like again, I know that Game Master has to prep more stuff and buy more stuff. I got you. But this is for those of you who have like actual friends who want to keep playing with people you think are cheating, who can't force them to roll digitally. Just get a dice tower. You can 3D print a small one.
You can also make a dice tower pretty easily.
I was going to say, you can make one out of plywood very easily. And you can paint it like a castle, just leave it on your table. It's cool. When you have nephews and nieces come over who are like 2 or 3, or even, I'd say 5 probably is better, they will love to just throw random dice down the tower and listen to it clack. It's great fun for the whole family.
It's fun for the whole
22.
family.
That's a good advertisement.
Yeah, 22.
That's why
Speaking of children.
Get the King of Candor dice roller today.
Hey, get me to 10,000 subs so I can get some merch going, boys. We'll get a Dice Tower as merch. All right, speaking of children, 22. Instant death traps and mechanics are coming into place. If you call these things unfair moving forward, I will laugh at you, tell you to fuck off, and cry some more.
I like instant death.
I
like them.
I love the hatred
I've
of
set
this
up
sentence.
more than one instant death traps. So yeah.
I don't like instant death traps and mechanics. However, if they're telegraphed, I feel like they're fine. It's just like everything else. If you know that you're going into like a lich, and it said, "Oh yeah, nobody who comes in here comes out alive," but there's a lot of ash that gets blown out, and he's a lich known as Zargon the Disintegrator, you probably should know what's coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I run a science fiction game, so you know, there's lots of high explosives going around, and so what is a nuke set up to a pressure plate, but an instant death trap? So you know, I'm a fan of instant death traps, and
I remember recently in one game we were basically fighting an endless horde, and after we completed our objective, I just nuked.
Yeah.
Lamau.
Really?
We put it in the fantasy terms, we broke the Lich's staff, but we weren't powerful enough to kill the Lich, so we just nuked the whole site from orbit. Well, from our pockets.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
The thing is, though, right, is it depends on the system in the game. For example, like Pag said, his game is a sci-fi game, but it's also really easy to come back to life in that game.
Yes.
Yeah, you just kind of scoop up what's ever left, if there's anything left, or you just prepare beforehand, and then you can come back to life. So, you know, an instant death trap doesn't smart as much. If it's an instant death trap where it's like, oh yeah, the whole party just TPK'd and you couldn't prepare for it, well, that's that kind of sucks.
Fun. Just
I think
Shatter wondering, if you picked up Pag's first 3 books, his tabletop game takes place in the same setting. And the tabletop game does, in fact, have the same resurrection mechanics as seen in the book. It also, there's going to be a page in there, I am promised, that establishes what the Rakers eat. Under the bestiary, it will establish that.
I'm waiting.
You have to wait for to buy the bestiary when it comes out, though, to find out.
Need to get yeah.
Can't wait.
All right.
Back to topic. Do you
23.
think this is a rule where... Dude,
go ahead,
I had something to say.
I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, this is another rule where we would need, like, more detail. Like, you'd have to define what a trap, instant death trap, actually is. Because when you telegraph it, is it really a trap? So, like, what kind of traps is he even setting up? Like, I don't know why people have issues with this or why this became an issue.
And honestly, like, like Pag and Shadow said earlier, like in Pop's Steam Torch, if people know what's going on here, they'll be fine.
Sure.
So, I do want to say one thing that's funny. Technically speaking, Pag's sci-fi game of having random instant death but easy resurrection is more like original D&D than modern D&D is. Because original D&D,
yeah?
everybody can revive each other all the damn time.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. In fact, if you go watch my James Ward video, you will note that his very first game, he got everybody killed during the Isle of the Ape. That's another video you can go watch. That module sucks. And
That's a great video, though.
Thank you. And it's funny because he's like, I was depressed and I got everybody killed. Then it turns out that Gary's son told him, Dad, I have one of those rings that have wish on it. Before we all died, I just wish we didn't. And he's like, all right, you're back in the council. Try again, idiots. Because that's what it used to be. It used to be, because like earlier was mentioned, the wishes were all over the place. You didn't spend wishes in first edition D&D. You waited till everybody had 3 wishes, then you started spending wishes. Because you need those 3 wishes to get out of situations where it's like, all right, the Lich shrunk you down and put you in a little small tube, and he's unzipping his pants. What do? The only thing is, I wish not.
Yeah, I wish this wasn't happening right now.
Yeah.
Well, what do you know?
Crazy.
All right. I actually hate Rule 23. I will not give you magic random items, and vendors will not stock them. They're meant to be rare and hard to acquire. Screw off. I love giving magic items. That is the best part of the game. Fighters are ruined by not doing this.
It's
Yeah.
entirely
the
a
whole
setting
thing. The whole thing, like, they can be rare, and that can make them expensive if somebody owns one, and like, a vendor has one. Obviously, the price is going to go up. Like, you can have it be difficult to obtain without being like, you have to go out and hunt for it, like it's hidden somewhere. Right? Like, it should be. I don't know if that makes it more or less accessible, but I feel like there's not really an issue of a vendor selling it if it's like, again, a high price, difficult to obtain, regardless.
So in my game,
Yeah, if it's $1 million gold, like,
exactly.
well, great, you're selling it. I'm never going to buy that.
Exactly. In my game, the rule that I have for Game Master advice is think of magic item vendors as art dealers. How expensive is it to go buy a piece of art? How annoying it is to go deal with the people who collect art. That's how magic items should be in the setting, especially in mine. For D&D here, the problem I have with it is there are no random magical items. That is the issue. That means that he's going to handcraft every magic item. That, to me, ruins any potential storytelling that you could have. I've had multiple players rework their character from the ground up because they got a magic item that they like so much. One of the players, and I'm not going to... I'll just say his character's name, Kynax. He plays in my Saturday game. He started out as an arcane warrior. He was sword and magic. He wanted to use like a small small sword in one hand, and he wanted to cast spells in the other hand. He was originally going to move to a mace afterwards, but he got a flaming sword, like a lightsaber essentially. And he liked it so much, he went out and found a way to get a lightning version of it too. So now he's got 2 basically lightsabers. Sometimes he dual wields them, sometimes he casts spells, and he could switch between them. He had no intention of ever dual wielding before he got that extra sword. But because he randomly rolled the fire sword and then randomly rolled the lightning sword, he was like, oh, hell yeah, dude, I have to use 2 lightsabers now. And that completely...
this is neat.
Yeah, altered his character trajectory. Another player, he was playing like a tank who was all about, like, I'm going to wear the heaviest armor I can, and he used a big shield. Then he rolled a 2-handed axe that, like, one end dealt fire damage, one end dealt cold damage. So he's like, dude, I'm going to switch to 2-weapon fighting and use this big old axe and get rid of my shield. And he's been having a great time tearing through people now. So shout out to Mosmos. I hope he's watching. All right.
Hell yeah. I think they should be a little bit, they shouldn't be so inaccessible.
Yeah. All right.
I think it depends on the system in the game, though.
True,
I think
but, I'm talking the D&D stuff specifically here.
Yeah, D&D specifically, fighters require magic items.
They're built around it, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
Unless
you're
you
just screwing your
do
fighters,
some
you don't do
homebrew.
that.
You can homebrew some stuff to make it reasonable. For example, if you just get the like plus damage and accuracy thing, just like from leveling, sure. But it outside of D&D, it really depends on like what's going on, what's the game, what's the system. Here it sounds a little vindictive.
Yeah, and something like World of Darkness, you're never going to get a magic item ever. Like it's you're just
Yeah.
never going to encounter one. They just don't exist.
Built around that.
Yeah. And if you play something like Eberron in D&D, it's like, are you crazy? Like, there's supposed to be magic items coming out the wazoo. Like, you're supposed to find like your average peasant has like a wand of light. Like, it's just kind of a silly rule. This one I'm gonna go ahead and say no. You suck. L. Fat L.
And
This
I
one
think
does not pit.
in 24, the worst one on the list. Random encounters in
boy.
the form of random dragons or mysterious road trader or a band of goblins prostitutes isn't going to happen. Go play Baldur's Gate
Yeah.
3.
Boo.
Absolute
Dude.
terrible call. Goblin prostitutes are a core aspect of the game. They're one of the pillars my game is built on.
So true.
Exploration, combat, goblin prostitutes.
It's
I-
really just a necessity. I don't know why you would like try to kick out a core rule of the game, like a core aspect like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, like, why would you not randomly encounter things? Like, I was going to a bar to meet up with my family the other night, and I saw a shirtless dude walking into a convenience store with an axe on his shoulder as I was walking like to the bar. Like,
Yo, that was
that fucking happens.
Yeah, you saw Pop.
no.
You saw
That's what I love about it. Really helps you get immersed in the world. The fact that it's a game of chance in every aspect, and like you shouldn't you shouldn't know what to expect. You should be like, you run into somebody in the woods or something, just like, oh shit, it's a chance encounter. It makes the world more interesting. I feel like this rule stinks, bro.
And not just that, Mr. Game Masters, players, plug your ears for a second. Game Masters, if you're upset because you have to roll and you're not very good at improving it, just pick the encounters beforehand. Just pick a couple. Say, all right, tonight, maybe I'll find the Axemen, maybe the Goblin Prostitutes, maybe a guy who's selling, I don't know, kobold eggs, and maybe 2 dog people in a fist fight. Those are the 4 encounters I want to have tonight. And maybe you still let the players roll a dice so they can feel kind of good, but it doesn't matter. You just pick which ones are happening. Just pick them.
Yeah, you just need the appearance of random.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all they need, because then it makes players feel like, oh, it's a new, like Pop said, oh, anything can happen in this world. How fun and fanciful. When really, you're just putting the important details here. I'm going to shout out for a second. Bethesda games do this shit all the time. Those random encounters you encounter, yeah, they're kind of random, but if there's a plot-relevant one, that overrides everything else and goes there. Why do you think that is? Because it was truly random, you'd be screwed and never be able to pass through quests.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think one of the best. I was just gonna say. I think one of the best pieces of GM advice I've ever read. It was in the Deeper Into the Odd book. Is just whenever you're gonna run a session, prepare like a maximum of 6 random encounters that you want your players to see, right? And then you just roll a 1d6 to see what order they encounter them in. Because that's all you really need. 6 cool things is more than enough for you, even if the players like accidentally kill the entire like army of orcs. If you just prepare 6 things per session, you will never be unprepared.
Yeah. And it's really not hard to make 6 like random-esque things.
No.
Here's a pro tip for an easy random encounter. You get a weird racial NPC doing a weird task. A goblin who's selling pet ferrets. Why? If pet ferrets, nobody has pet ferrets in this setting. A goblin who's a merchant, that's weird. That eats up an hour right there. The player's going to pick this little dude's brain, argue with him about goblin stuff. That's all you do. That little sentence of let me make a random guy doing a random job, that will eat up so much time of your players because they're going to be either fascinated by what's going on or suspect he's up to something and try to get out of him. And it's up to you as improv to just go with it. And it's a random NPC. Who cares if they end up killing him? Who cares if he never shows back up? That's okay. If you truly need something because you're just out of luck and you have no ideas, that's the answer for everything. A random guy doing a random little bit of a weird job will eat all the time you need. Pro tip, free tip, take it.
And enjoy it.
Yeah. 25 and 26 are going to be combined. 25, I don't give 2 fucks what Reddit is saying about X or Y ruling. And 26, I actually give less of a fuck about what your mate's D&D group did. This is... I agree and disagree. He's phrasing it like a dickhead here, but I understand him basically saying, I don't care what other people are doing. I think, I'm the game master, my ruling calls. This goes back to Rule 0, and this is the problem you table.
Yeah, I have nothing to add. I just agree with you on this one.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. This one is funny, 27, because there's a lot of it's a multi-layered passive aggressiveness here. Saying anything to me about other players not liking me doing X or Y without them saying it directly to me will result in me kicking you out of the group. Don't use someone else to push your own agenda. So this is him calling out people for saying other people are calling him out behind his back. Like, this is like a Byzantine level of backstabbery here. Are we high school girls? Like,
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. It's every
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. Just yeah. I
really,
mean, it's silly.
yeah. Just
don't
once
watch
again,
Blue Girls again. If that's how your group is, get a new group.
It's another issue that's just like, look, if you guys don't get along and you don't communicate, you're not going to have a good time.
Yeah.
So I hope
It's
somebody can
legit
help.
just part of the deal.
Yeah. I hope somebody can help me with this next one because I'm a little confused. 28.
Mhm.
You're not to sit down and have a 2-hour discussion about what Samson from Pandora Secondary did 3 weeks ago when you come to play. Take the 15 to 20 minutes I used to set up and review my notes and talk to each other, then sit down to play. I understand the second half completely. Stop cross-table yapping and let's focus on the game. Some people who will not be named who are, beloved members of our group definitely do a bit too much crosstalk. However, what is Samson from Pandora Secondary?
Yeah.
I think it's just a random example of like an off-topic thing that they were distracting from the game. I do not know.
So
yeah, this has
guy
to be
is
like a
British?
specific thing.
This guy is British, from my understanding, so it's probably something from, over there.
Nerd
Well, let's see.
show.
He said bloke. He said mate. My brain said Australian, but I could be wrong.
It's one of the two.
Australian.
All I know is he's
Either.
one of the failed states. America's the only successful English state, unfortunately. So,
That is true.
all right.
Mhm.
29. This is a fascinating one. Saying shit like, guys, come on. We're not here to have fun. We're here to play D&D. This is serious business. Is rude and dismissive of how much work I put into this. I will simply go home if I hear this shit. Man, I'm sorry, but that's really fucking funny.
There's
It really is,
some
yeah.
of these rules make me imagine that, like, the players were just like random trolls and the DM was a guy who took the game really seriously and they literally just joined just to mess with him. Like, it's like, this is
That
so
they said earlier. This same poster apparently did comment how they were just trolling and ruining his poor game master's life. But just the way he
really?
phrased it here, you're like, come on, man. Like, that's a funny joke.
Yeah, it makes me on the side of the trolls. Like it's that's too funny. Like bro, you're fucking getting got.
And like, I get it. You did put, it's a game master, I know. You put a lot of work in, you want your people to go with it, but that's really funny for them to say, come on, guys, we're here to play D&D, not have fun. Like, that's funny. That's a good joke.
Yeah, it's genuinely hilarious.
All right. So, rule 30. This starts a massive trend. I made sure to line it up so 30 was on its own page. Don't fucking order food randomly. We will eat together at a specific time or not at all. I don't want food shit all over my things. So this is really funny. This is two things here. I know what's going on. What's happening is players are randomly ordering DoorDash because this happened at my table. I had this exact same problem before I told everybody, guys, we will take a dinner break at 8 o'clock every night because we start at 5. For the first hours, everybody's screwing around. The game starts at 6. Like, be in the door at 5 and we'll screw around. Lobby time starts at 6. Taking a break at 8. We'll be back at 8:39ish. And then we play till 10. Just set up a time. Because the idea, if your players are ordering food, it's because they're hungry. It's probably because you're playing either at lunchtime or dinner time, which is when most players, have off. So just set a specific time. Like, I know how annoying it is for players to interrupt it because the doorbell goes off and then the DoorDash guy goes and you got to stop the whole thing because the dogs are barking. I get it, but like, but
once again, lack of communication, dude.
Yeah, but to me, the second half of this is very important. I don't want food shit all over my things. How's that happening?
Yeah. You probably some motherfucker ordered some goddamn spicy hot wings, fingers covered in hot sauce, just grabbing shit, manipulating your objects, smearing the fucking oh no, I get that. I get that
better.
perfectly.
On that, Pag, rule number 31 is for you. No food or drinks near any of my D&D gear. If you wreck something, you could pay for it. I let one person trash my DM screen once, and it's never been replaced by them. In fact, I had that person attempt to gaslight me into believing they didn't wreck my shit at all. I'm not stupid. You're an adult. Accept the responsibility. So yes, somebody manhandled his DM screen with greasy hot wings, and he's still very angry about it.
Players.
Rightfully so, I might add.
Just bad players at that point. That's just like, just don't do that. Just a dick thing to do. I'm not going to go to your computer and like rub my grease-laden like pizza, like Cheeto encrusted fingers over all your key. You know, just don't do that.
Yeah, it sounds like this DM probably brings all the shit. He probably brings the dice and the screen and the miniatures and the yada 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 yada. So,
Oh yeah, this poor fucking dude.
Yeah, I agree.
Again, now I'm
with
back
this
to
one.
feeling sympathy for him because, man, think about that. Think about like how annoying it would be to get all your stuff greased up. And like, I hate when I have to lend my dice to some players because like I know they're not going to wash their damn hands, and like that's annoying enough. Let alone they're all over your screens and your minis and stuff. Oh,
yeah, one of these Cheeto encrusted fucks. You know how it is. Look,
Oh,
I've been a Cheeto encrusted fuck now and again myself. So
that's what napkins are for.
exactly.
Yeah, show
All
some
right.
respect.
Yeah,
Arguments
for real.
between players outside of roleplay will be resolved by me giving the definite ruling. If you don't like it, fuck off back home.
This is just power tripping.
This is.
I like it. It's hilarious, but this is just power tripping.
This shouldn't even be a rule. Unless it's disrupting
Yeah,
the
like
game,
bro.
let them argue.
Yeah,
This
You
is
guys are
Discord
getting a
mod.
divorce? He keeps the kids. Fuck off.
Keeping your fucking dog too.
No.
Yeah,
All right.
you do have to have that though. That like definitive ruling and everything. Like you do need somebody who's gonna say.
It's just saying that it's an argument outside of roleplay. Like, who cares? If this is two players arguing, not characters, if two members of the table are arguing, just say, "Hey, shut up, we're playing." And if they can't play, then that's the point. You say, "All right, you two go in the little living room, figure your shit out, and then we'll come back." If they're arguing about that, like unless they ask you to resolve the problem, kick them out. Let them go resolve it in the other room.
Let 'em
33,
go.
I agree with almost wholeheartedly. I think that the problem with 30, we'll get into it in a second. The problem with 33 is, again, nuance. I don't give a fuck what they did in Critical Role, or what that one guy on Reddit said, or if you think that it's all make-believe so you can do what you want. The world I run works on internal rulings and lore I created specifically for it.
Oh my god, I kind of understand this one.
I kind of understand this one too. He phrased it horribly, but I understand it.
Yeah.
I have had
this
so
goes
many
to
players.
one of my horror stories.
Oh yeah, I've had so many fucking players go to D&D, like Reddit, find a fucking story like Sir Barrington, and think that's the funniest shit ever, so they want to do it. Or they argue with me for hours that they can totally make the peasant railgun. They're funny stories. I love them as stories. They're not real. Shut up.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't believe everything you read on the internet, kiddo.
If you have a work that you're dedicated to, it's got its own internal rules and workings and everything, and it's perfectly fine, I think, to use that rather than to just generate whatever that would ruin the world. It would ruin the engagement, the immersion. That's my take.
Falling damage is real.
Yes, Queen. I want to change the rules. There you go, Pack. Have a little bit of a nightmare reminder as you tell the story.
Yeah.
The
fucking guy, brand new player, decided that he was going to make a giant spider tank, like from that one Western with Will Smith. I hope it's with Will Smith. Yes, Wild Wild West. So he makes a giant spider tank.
Not only is it Will Smith, he sung the song for it.
That's nice. Abortive rap career. Anyway, so he makes this giant spider tank, and they're like racing towards this gorge for some reason. I can't remember why he wanted to go so fast. And he was like, "All right, I'm gonna ramp off the edge of this cliff." And I was like, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And he was like, "Yep." And I was like, "Well, all right." So the whole party was inside this tank. It falls off the cliff. It's a fusion powered tank. It hits the ground. The fusion bottle cracks. Nuclear detonation goes off. Kills everybody in the party instantly. And after the party, he's like, "Well, I just thought there wouldn't be falling damage." And I was like, "After I told you there'd be falling damage?" And he was like, "No, I'm just looking for a DM that's going to be more like Yas Queen." And I was like, "All right, well that ain't me." So he left.
Yeah. Bro,
This is how we implemented the rule that no
Wow.
new players allowed in like ongoing campaigns. It's not a hard rule we follow, but in some games it is, let's say,
bro, I remember another player that we tried to add on that we just were like, no, this person isn't going to work out in session 0.
Mhm.
And I'm going to say this, the boomer derogatory.
Oh god, this guy.
Yeah.
Boomer.
As a matter of fact, you do need to use a character sheet. You will not just remember all the details.
He wanted to not use a character sheet.
You know what? That
Could
is
not
actually rule
handle
number
having
35 here.
What's rule
he
number
could
35?
not handle having a web page and a character sheet open at the same time.
He
just
was
too
impressively
much for him.
boomerish, yeah.
Yeah. He in this sci-fi game where everyone has basically been genetically modified to be really strong, really cool, all that, wanted to play a normal human.
Yeah, default person with no upgrades whatsoever.
Yep,
He
no
wasn't into all of that
cybernetics, no
nonsense.
genetics, nothing.
Which you can do, but
Yeah.
you're going to be very underpowered compared to all of your party members who are cybernetic deities.
Yep.
Anyway, what's rule number 35?
I'm saying it's related to this. Rule 35 is if you don't bring your sheet, you don't play. So that's funny that that same problem came up because that's just a great rule right there. I agree.
I mean, you literally can't.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
You got to have something. Yeah, something to go off of. Like, come on.
Yep, and don't worry, chat. We did not skip 34. I just wanted to reference 35 because it came up in Gigi's story. So going back to 34, every single person in this chat is having debuffs applied to their character that should have occurred a long time ago. This will be specific to characters. This is hysterical. This means he gave out too many gibs and everybody was too powerful and he can't handle it. This is a skill issue.
It really is, yeah.
You're all getting debuff.
And for the folks in the audience, if you want to learn more, look up buff rule 34.
Exactly.
So true.
Or maybe Buffy rule 34. That won't be so bad for you.
Look up buff man rule 34. You'll have a great time.
Yeah.
All right.
It's hilarious.
What'd you say?
It's just a hilarious rule. Honestly, at that point, I've gotten to points where I've overbuffed the party. It's very common when you're a new GM. You'll probably do it. It's gonna happen. You might just want to reset the game or do a soft reset at that point.
And this goes back to talk to your players. Tell them, guys, I give out too many things. I shouldn't have done X. They are going to be way more amenable to that than you expect.
Usually they'll
understand. Like people.
And if not, again, you're the DM, and you're like, well, yeah, I'm just gonna take that if you're not gonna accept that.
Sorry,
yoink.
Game balance. 36 is interesting because it's so basic. I don't know why this is a rule. If you don't bring dice, borrow some. What is going on here?
Yeah, what?
How are they rolling without dice?
What is the alternative? Yeah.
Yeah.
Flipping coins, many
What?
coins.
No, it's you Google random number generator.
I like to imagine a player is just like, I'm gonna flip a coin, heads or tails for above 10, below 10, then heads or tails again for above 5 or below 5, and just like keep on going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They flip like 200 coins.
Beautiful. All right. 37 is just when we play D&D, I am not your friend. That doesn't mean you treat me like an enemy during the game. It means I'm no longer being nice. What?
That one though, like if you understand where he's coming from, like I don't have an issue with that. Just like as a thing to tell people, just like, hey, you're not getting special treatment because I gave you a ride, or I've known you for longer than this other player. That's another one that should be an unwritten rule. Like literally, if you're immersing yourself in that world, his role is going to be to basically create and enforce the rules. And like, I don't know, it's ridiculous to think that people are coming to him being like, "Oh, come on, bro, I've known you for 15 years. Can't you cut me a break here?" It's like, nah, come on, you know what he's supposed to be doing. That shouldn't be a rule, but like, it's a thing people should understand, which again just shows that like this guy, he just picked the wrong group. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I think it's
Yeah, he just got a
related
group
to the
full of
next
bunch
one as well, which is Rule 38. If you treat me poorly in any way, shape, or form during or after or before the game due to something that happened in the game, you're out. If you cannot separate a game from reality, I think you're a fucking moron, and I have little time to deal with that energy. I just love how this starts
moron
out as
energy.
I just love how this point starts out. I'm a little guy. It's my birthday. I'm a little guy, and I will fucking kill your family. That's just the progression of this point.
He's had enough.
Yeah, but like
I
I
don't,
get
know,
it.
I don't know what the fuck happened to this man for him to like have to write that down.
Yeah,
Yep.
his players must have just been like mad at him for every choice he made in the game and took it all personally. Like, I don't think any of the players do in the game personally. They can look me in the eye and say this is meant to be taken personally, and I still won't believe them. It's a game.
this is admissible in court.
All right, so 39 and 40 we're going to read together because they are the same issue that's related to the earlier one. 39 says, you will submit your spell lists daily in game. If you do not give me a spell list each day in game, you will not be allowed to cast a single spell or cantrip in combat. I do not trust you guys to not use this against me. If you do not mark off spell slots or say something like, I remember what I'm at as a way to justify it, I will simply have you fail your spell, deal half your health in damage to you, and say you have no spells to cast for the rest of the day. Holy
This
hell.
sounds like players not
Yeah.
rolling properly.
This is people.
Yeah, this one's interesting. Yeah.
This is, bro, straight up, your players are cheating. Get a shotgun and end your players. It's D&D. Why the fuck are you cheating?
I don't know about that, but yeah, like at this point, just kick them out. Like,
Yeah, if like
I don't get me wrong, I get it as someone who's played a lot of like mages, like Vancian casting mages. Sometimes you get spells mixed up, things get messed around. Everyone forgets to do a spell list, like every once in a while, but. If it's like this bad, if it's this systemic, that guy's just cheating. Either kick them out or just don't let them play mages.
Yeah, like, sorry, you have to play marshals now, you stupid bitch. You did this to yourself. Sucks to suck, nerd.
all right,
Yeah.
getting to the end here.
End the game.
So remember earlier with the Cheetos? Rule 41 feels like a callback to it. If you break literally anything, you can buy the replacement that day, or you cannot attend the game until you do so. Just,
Man,
Fair.
these people must be breaking
like-
his shit.
Unless you're playing with, like, literal children, in which case, why are you playing with literal children? That's kind of weird. But, like, unless you're playing with literal children, like, yeah, they're adults. If they break your shit, they should fucking buy it.
So Rule 42 makes me laugh because it's just, it's out of context. It's very funny, but I understand in context. 42. If you complain about the choice of music, I fully expect you to bring the whole playlist next session or shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Man, I say complain about the music choice my GM makes every single week. That will go great, I'm sure.
I'm gonna, he'll just let you start play your Euro dark dance breakcore, and what's the problem with that?
It's so funny though. Like, poor guy goes through this effort to get all this music, and the players are complaining about it. Like, I don't like. I need to see exactly what the complaints are, but it's just so funny. Of shut the fuck up,
dude. Setting up a soundtrack is such a high level of effort for a game that I can kind of see, why he'd be a little bit upset. Like, yeah. I have never even considered once setting up a soundtrack.
I've used music before, but like very rarely. It's such a pain in the ass.
I don't know. I think it's just another representation of like the disconnect between the master and the players. It's like he obviously went into this having certain expectations, and both they did too, and it just didn't gel with one another. And it's you see shit like this like blows up in their face after a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Here we are. The creme de la creme, 33. I cannot stress enough how little I care about how you feel about my rulings from now on. Just
That's the whole rule. Is that the whole rule?
that's the whole rule. That's not really a rule, but okay. And
Thanks, man. All right.
Rule 44. Oh, in Rule 44, I'm never just threatening you. I'm promising you. Ooh, ooh, fire!
Yeah,
Drops the
it's
page,
nice way to-
smoking hot. Angels started singing. Devil starts crying. Burn the whole straight to hell.
Nah,
I
man. Way to
really
quote
hope-
Samuel L. Jackson. Hey, that ain't no threat, boy. That's a promise. It's like, all right,
I-
yeah.
I really hope this GM does not come back to GM from this group. It says at the beginning that he went on hiatus.
Yeah.
I really hope he just finds a better group or finds a group that fits his style better.
If this
I
fucker
hope
is
that the
going up to your
reason-
house with his minis and a music playlist ready, he deserves a better group than this.
For real.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
And,
I
we don't know. He might suck in other ways. There might be other things about him that are awful, right?
Yeah, he might
Oh,
just smell bad.
Yeah, he might smell bad.
he might be named
But
Astro.
still.
So
Oh
true.
no.
So like I kind of hope that the reason that this post was removed was the DM was like looking on Reddit or something like that, and he found this, and he was like, You posted about me," and it just exploded, and it just like that was the end.
So based on what
think
Nevis
what it
said,
was
go ahead.
it
Pops.
was mentioned in the chat. Yeah, literally what you were about to say. It was mentioned in the chat that it came to light that the person who posted the thing on Reddit, the player, it ended up coming to light that he was on he was on other boards or something bragging about how they were messing with this guy and how he was kind of antagonizing him, and so was the rest of the group. So he probably had people telling him like, hey, you're a piece of garbage for this. Why are you driving him to this point? It's actually your fault that the DM ended up coming to this. And so I think that's why it got removed, because he
Yeah,
kind of got
probably.
like shamed for it.
Mm-hmm. But a
But I like,
girl
yeah, you can have that as like your
His
little
headcanon.
idealistic world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
All right. So with that, we got a couple minutes left before we're going to wrap up. And with that, I think we're going to share some of our horror stories from the tabletop space.
All right.
Skipping
we
over
got
Pops,
a
of
few
course.
here.
Yeah. Skipping over Pops because he's not played with us yet because he unfortunately has bad work hours for playing. I think we're going to go around the horn and everybody share one of the stories they want to share or just some event that happened there. Maybe they want to pass it to somebody else if they want to. So I'm going to go first. I promised you guys earlier I'd share the story of the player who choked his girlfriend to death. So we were playing in first edition Pathfinder. This is the start of my favorite campaign, the Lux campaign, the one that's the foundation for my setting. All the players said, hey, there's a special alternative rule here. You can get an extra feat if you get one of the drawbacks. They're like negative feats in first edition. Okay. And as players, we realized, hey, it's really easy to pick a drawback that has no implication to your character. For example, if you dumped charisma and you're playing like a fighter and you pick the thing like not bashful where you get a negative to charisma, that's just going to reinforce and make you buffed essentially. It's not actually a debuff. One of my players, he went through and he took out all the ones that were just like really, really like, hey, you have no legs and you have to, crawl around. So all the terrible ones were gone. And instead, he found a list of like normal debuffs. They're anything from you're blind in one eye to you have two left hands, stuff like that. So it's actually mechanical benefits or debuffs. Re-rolled. One of my players, he rolled naive. So his character, who was supposed to kind of be the face, would just believe everybody, which was a lot of fun in the role-playing situation. So that worked out well. Another one of my players, who was supposed to play the paladin, rolled like hyper serious. So he couldn't be like charismatic and things like that. Both these players had fantastic role play with their debuffs. We had a new guy at the table. This guy still plays with us. I love him. He's a very good person. but he wanted to play a tiefling. And he's like, I want to play this tiefling as like a cool dude who's all about fire and stuff. All right, I'm going to name him Cross. Okay? Tiefling named Cross. He wanted to be a ranger because he wanted to use a little bit of magic, a little bit of melee, and all that stuff. All right? And while he was playing Cross, the debuff he rolled is madly in love. He has a girlfriend, and that's the debuff. The problem is, as long as she's fine, nothing's a problem. If she's threatened, he has to then, like, he gets like a -4 against like resisting listening to her. So like if the bad guy kidnaps his girlfriend, he has to go immediately save her. Makes sense as a debuff. Mm-hmm. Here's the catch though. While she's with him, he gets like a +2 to hit on all attacks and stuff. It was a really weird situation. So I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. He said, I'm going to bring her with us on all the quests and stuff. At first, you're like, okay, so I see where this is going. Oh, no. You do not see where this is going, I promise you. The other players thought this is going to be a lot of fun. And at first, you're like, okay, so what did they do? Hit on his girlfriend? No. They said, we're going to help this guy because, player, it's his first time. We want to spend some of our time, our characters are going to spend downtime and it's a little bit of our XP to train her so she can become like a level 1 character. So when he gets to high enough level, like I think it's level 3 is when you can take the cohort feat in Pathfinder, you could take her as a cohort and she can become his follower. Wow, what a fantastic moment that the other players have stepped up to do. So the other players, specifically the paladin, kept training her and stuff. And the other player who's playing Cross, he just, every time we do something, he'd fuck up. His character missed attacks, shot his friends a few times. He kept rolling really low. He kept making really bad choices. And after like 2 months of play, they had gotten to about level 7 and were getting ready to go to onto the actual start of the main plot, which is to colonize the New World. On the way there, he asked me, he's like, hey, I want to remove this debuff. I hate this girl character. She's annoying me, in real life. I have to keep track of her. I don't want her around anymore. I said, okay, so you'll have to get the debuff and break it up with her. I said, what we'll do to make this easy, you'll break up with her. After you broke up with her, we'll have your character skip a feat, essentially, and you'll refund the drawback. He's like, okay. And he said, well, I also want to rework my character. Can I remake him? Because I'm sick of his character, too. I don't feel like I'm role-playing him well. Sure, it's his first character, fine. So we go there, and I'm like, all right, so he wants to role-play breaking up with his girlfriend. He starts to try to break up with her. Remember, she's a character at this point. Her drawback that she rolled was also madly in love. So she's begging him to stay with her. And he was all he's like, no, I can't do this. He's like, his character gets mad, and every time his character's been mad, he's like hit something or broken something. She's the only thing around. So he says, I'm going to punch her because my character's angry with her. That'll get her to stop loving me. So he just clocks his girlfriend right in the mouth. And the whole camp, who this whole time, this guy's been like a hero, they just watch him start beating his wife. And they were like, what the hell did we do?
What is happening?
Oh, no.
So the character who's naive walks up and is like, hey, you can't do that. He encouraged him and said, oh, no, it's okay. She likes it. And because he's naive, he's like, that makes sense to me. And he walks away.
Oh, my God.
She asks him, please don't do that again. I don't like it. And he says, okay, I want to break up with you. And she's like, well, can I make it up to you? So he punches her again. And at this point, she's like crying and begging for him to stop, saying how much she loves him. And he's like, I can't get her to stop loving me. I'm like, man, she just really cares about you. You dumped a lot on her at once. Like, I know what I'm going to do. He starts strangling her.
Oh, my God.
And at this point, the paladin walks over, and it's like, what's going on? And he's like, I'm so angry. I'm ignoring the paladin. He's got red in his eyes as he rolls like a strength check to try to break her neck while he's got her in his hand. The paladin's like... He's literally a demon, yeah? He's strangling this girl, yeah? The girl that I've trained for real life 4 months, yeah? The girl I've gotten in, to join the Paladin Holy Order, yeah? I'm just going to attack him and try to knock it over. He rolls to attack Cross, like hits him, and like manages to knock him out of his hands, and he picks her up and puts her aside like, all right, lady, sit here, and he's like, Cross, what are you doing? And at this point, like, all right, he's choked her out, he's done all these terrible things, his character's kind of in a bad way, and the fight's over. It's been broken up. He then says, I take out my bow, and I shoot the paladin in the head. Okay. He rolls to hit. He crits the paladin. Does a crap ton of damage to him. Paladin's not dead, though. because the paladin, was an Azamar, and because of a little bit of damage resistance he had from lightning, didn't die from the bow, even though it should have killed him normally. He had like 5 health left. So the paladin turns around, the player looks at me, hey, DM, yeah? His character just did a whole bunch of evil actions, yeah? Does he qualify as evil now? I'd say so. Okay, so he smites the other player and just like vaporizes him essentially.
Damn.
The player,
Talk
though,
about a
before
bad
he
breakup,
died,
man.
he asked me, hey, there's a demon that lives in my sword, right? Yeah, because the cross, of course, found a demon that's what started his anger issues. Before he dies, he says, I pledge my soul to the demon as long as it lets me get revenge. Okay, so he gets turned to ash, then he gets resurrected immediately, but not there by the demon. So the players know that, so I turned to him like, all right, player, this guy, unfortunately, you can't play him anymore. And he looks at me. Remember, he already said he wanted to give up his character. He's like, really? I just started enjoying playing this character.
Oh boy,
That character came back
solid
later.
one right there.
That
I'm
NPC lady.
as a
Oh, he came back as a villain. Yeah, it was great. There's a big final battle. That NPC lady, she got used later on in a major plot that I have. One of these days, I will tell you, and I'll probably even have this paid to be animated because it's my favorite D&D story I've ever done, the Succubus incident. It's fantastic. Perfect moment. I'll get into that later. So next, Mr. Goat, would you like to share one of your horror stories with us?
Well, I've had some horror stories where I'm running the game. I've had some horror stories where I've been in the game. I think one of the funnier horror stories was when I was in one of Pag's games, and it was the training simulator game. The entire point of the game was he had this group of players, known collectively as the Euros, who had been playing the game for about 2 years at this point, and they just still weren't getting it. I joined in on about the second session. Apparently, they spent like 3 hours learning how cover works. Apparently, it took them like 3 IRL hours to grasp the concept of taking cover when people are shooting at you. And I've never been more infuriated in my life. I have no idea how PAG ran the game for them. It got to the point where I was because they were just doing psychotic things. For example, their turns would all take forever. And one of them in particular just couldn't grasp the idea of how an AoE worked, even though they built a grenade character. So what ended up happening was I was just bossing everyone around and telling them, like, very slowly, like I was talking to children, how game mechanics work. And bizarrely, they all magically improved. Suddenly, when someone is, like, being a little condescending and upset at them, all of them magically improved. I was some type of weird nightmare. I don't understand what was happening that day.
As a little bit of detail, there's 3 hours it took to get them to figure out how to use cover. It also took 17 deaths. It was a simulation, so whenever they died, they just popped back in. So they had to be shot because they were outside of cover 17 times before they were like, oh, I guess we really do need to use cover, huh?
I don't know about PAG, but that is right up my as far as like my sense of humor goes. I think I would get a kick out of having to deal with that stuff like that. It sounds like a lot of fun.
Pretty funny at times.
Yeah.
One time they TPK'd to an elevator. Like the elevator killed the whole party.
No, twice.
Twice? No, they only all died to an elevator once.
No, well, the second time it's because they were standing in an elevator and they thought, oh, all of these robots won't kill us.
Yeah, but that wasn't the elevator. That was enemies.
That's true.
Anyway,
one of them tried to pole vault through hard light.
Yeah. One of them tried to pole vault through what was essentially a laser barrier and was incinerated instantly.
Yeah. One of them also shot a turret in a room filled with turrets.
Yeah, there's a lot of stupid stories about the Euros that I could go with. Oh,
bet.
those heroes. Anyway, who do you want next, kid?
Next up would be Mr. Nebula, if he wants to share something.
All right. I can't really think of many good horror stories that I've been a part of personally. I've had pretty good luck when it comes to games in general. Honestly.
You know what, then? I
You're
suggest you share the
welcome.
pizza story.
All right.
It was
Pizza
horrible for
story.
the NPC.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, it was very much a horror story for the person we did it to. So in a game run by Pag, we were playing in basically a game with a big ol' arena using mechs to fight. And one of our first opponents, I believe that they were specifically our second opponent in the arena,
No, it was a while beyond that.
No, I'm pretty sure that they specifically sat at second worst, specifically to fuck with whoever joins, right?
No, they were like 10 up, but yeah.
They were like
Really?
50 out of 60. We just blew past the first 10 because we were just that good.
Got it. Anyways, this guy was just known to be a total dick. He basically used a bunch of mortars in order to try to instant win, and if he didn't instant win, he immediately surrendered. Basically,
That's what he did to us.
yeah, he could not kill me, and I think one other person in our party. And before we could act to kill him, because we were going to kill him, he surrendered. Anyways, we immediately did not like him because of that, and because he was just in general an asshole. So we proceeded
the entire
to.
time he was taunting us. He was taunting our friends. He was insulting everybody. This guy was just a bad dude.
So as soon as we won, we basically started using his name to advertise ourselves by like making a ad campaign of Lamau. We kicked his ass.
Yeah, so we bought all the pizza players with our first few winnings.
Yeah. The main thing was we used like the first bit of our winnings to get an ad campaign going for pizza places in the city for code Bloodsport.
It was
which is
code Bloodsport sucks.
Yep.
That was code we bought like a pizza chain, and we made that the discount.
Yeah, well, no, we didn't buy pizza chain. We just like used our money to get We didn't buy pizza chains. We
vast amount of money doing this.
Yeah. We also sent pizza to his address very often. Every day.
Every day. Yeah. We paid a vast quantity of money so that every single day he got a pizza with the words written, discount code Bloodsport sucks.
Not just that.
Yeah.
The pizza
continued for months.
No, the pizza said, it has been X days since we beat you. Use code Bloodsport sucks. So every day he got a fresh pizza sent to him. If it's pepperoni, it said, it's been 2 days since we beat you. It's been 3 days since we beat you. For months this was going on. The whole time we literally owned all the pizza restaurants, and we had special coupon codes whenever we did a deal with Nike. The coupon code wasn't Go Vultures or Go Rough Riders, which is what it should have been. It was coupon code Bloodsport sucks. We ruined his career. Yeah. He started losing because all the other sponsorship pulled out from him. He couldn't hold his nerve.
And he was basically, we were mentally degrading him too. He went to the bottom of the arena.
Yep.
And then he eventually set up a workshop way out in the boonies, like outside the city, and was working on a big old mech that he was planning on using to like rip apart the city or something.
He was going to do a shooting.
Yeah, we could not find him. We eventually satellite tracked him to this location, found him in his garage pulling a fucking a killdozer attempt, and I proceeded. But we were like, all right, we need to somehow deal with this guy. But before we do, I bought a pizza, put inside the box, found you, and put it in his workshop.
Yeah, so he went to go buy some screws. Nebula snuck in, opened it, propped on his bench, and left. So when he got inside to sit back at his workbench, there's a pizza that said, found you, smiley face.
In the original plan, by the way, was to get him arrested for like his terrorist plot.
This, by the way, that was the plan. However, when he saw the pizza, he had a mental break and immediately got in the mech and started heading towards the city. We saw this on satellite, and we proceeded to just get in our mechs and kill him.
Yeah, we just shot him, and we took his mech and we repainted it, and we gave it
They
to
didn't.
him.
They didn't even actually shoot him. They used a. Basically, they just cemented him to the ground so that he couldldn't move anymore, and he was just like, "Well," and he just shot himself.
Yeah, we used a
That-
glue
that's
gun
all
to
I
hold him in
know.
place.
Yeah.
Oh my!
Yeah.
Yeah, because we were going to take him in
There's
because we're the heroes. Bloodsport's evil. Remember, we're the
Yeah.
good guys.
Yeah.
It literally, it sounds like a spoof. Of
And
like
then we
Mafia
celebrated
movie.
with pizza.
Pretty much.
Yep.
Yeah, then we ate pizza.
You send somebody a pizza, it's like I'm coming for you. It's so Italian.
It really is. Yeah.
It was beautiful.
It was great.
Great assassin.
All right. And I'm going to pass the torch to Pag.
All right, send us
Because I
on
know
good
he
bag.
has so many. Yeah.
That's a good one.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I think the bestiality Euro is probably where I should leave this off.
It's going to be a good story. Get ready, chat. You're not
Um,
ready.
God.
Oh,
So I was running another game, which was a morality simulator game. There's a lot of simulators that go on my science fiction game to determine exactly like what type of person is going into the simulator. You know, an employer might want to see if someone's a good person, so they'll put them through a simulator to test their morals. And this is what one of these was. And this doesn't have much to do with that, other than the party sided with Hitler for tax reasons. But that's a story for another day. So this guy, he comes in, and this is a story about vetting people who come in your session 0. I knew immediately when he came in, and he was like, "I want to make a little boy cat boy," and I was like, "Oh, well, you can do that. That is a possibility. All right." So we work on making his character a cat boy who he wanted to make the smallest and lightest possible cat boy possible. So he did that. And it was weird making the character sheet with him. And then after a session one day, he refused to stick with the party. He was not wanting to stick with the party at all. And so I talked to him multiple times about this. I was like, "Hey, you need to work with the party. You're a group. I don't want split sessions for the entire session, the whole game. That's a nightmare." And he was resistant to it, but it was kind of going along with it. And one night after the game, he says to me out of the blue, I can't remember what we were talking about beforehand, but it had nothing to do with this. He was like, "Hey, you know, if the dog is into it, would it really be wrong to, you know, like have sex with the dog?" And I was like, "Excuse
What?
me?" Yes, it would. And Shadow was there, so me and Shadow, we just go on with
Okay.
this guy for like, it was like probably a 20-minute conversation trying to explain to this guy that no, you can't do that. That's not okay to have sex with animals if they
He
appear.
had the most infantile understanding of consent. He had
No,
like
that's horrendous. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. How does it
yeah.
fuck?
Yeah,
You know how rare it is that like wild animals or animals that all like fuck for pleasure. Like, dude, that's fucked.
I
Yeah.
think recorded only gorillas and humans do.
And dolphins.
Dolphins.
Or something like
Dolphins love
Yeah,
rape.
dolphin.
Dolphins are the notorious
Yeah,
ones.
alright.
You know, I'm sure
So-
it does happen, but I mean, you're wrong in the head, bro.
yeah. Dude is like an actual nutball. I didn't kick him out for that.
Mm.
No,
Mhm.
I'm a very understanding and welcoming DM. I didn't kick him out for that. I was like, okay, you know, maybe he's young. I didn't know if he was young because I didn't ask him his age. He seemed like an adult person. I thought he was going to university in like Sweden or something like that. So I was like, all right, that's that conversation wrapped up in a bow. He
But
said
we
some
can teach
more.
him better than this.
Yeah, he
I
said
mean,
some
pretty
more weird
much. It was
stuff.
weird, but we moved on.
Apparently, he had an animatronic tail that he would go to stores wearing that would move around and knock things off of shelves. He told me once about that. And then the thing that got me to actually kick this guy,
Sure.
he again was deciding to just leave the whole party. And finally, I was like, all right, You can't do it. You have to stay with the party. I'm not letting you fuck off across half the continent to pursue your own little thing while the party does another thing. I'm not going to allow that. And so his response back to me immediately was, "Oh, well, in that case, I'm just going to metagame all the time." And I was like, "Oh, that's the game we're playing. Like you're gonna threaten me. Okay, you're out. You're done." Kicked him out right then and there.
He reached out to
Wow.
so many people on the server trying to be let back in.
He made 3 alts.
Damn.
Yeah.
I was going.
You know what though? You really are a tolerant you're a tolerant gamer.
Yeah, you
Holy cow.
might not expect it from knowing me in from other things. But in practice I am very tolerant.
Yeah,
it was
this dude kind of sounds like a pussy. But
he definitely was. He definitely wished he was, at least.
I now understand the cat girl lore you're setting.
That actually is unrelated to him. The reason that there's a cat girl empire in my setting is that every single group of players ever has made cat girls.
There's a
Independently,
section
with
of
no
the lore
contact with one another.
that talks about how they have little boys sometimes, and now I understand where that comes from.
it'd be even
That's not what it says. That's not what the lore says.
Yeah, I don't think it says that at all, kid. I don't know what you were reading, but I
I'm
don't
sure
believe
what
that's
the
in there
last
at all.
update said. I'm
No,
95%
I don't think
sure
so.
that's what it said.
No.
I think I'm 100% sure you're wrong about that.
There's a part of the lore about the cat boy emperor who rules over the cat girl empire.
Yeah.
But it never states if what he looks like. There's never a statement if he's a big buff cat man or a tiny cat boy. There's
Cat
never
boy?
any comment on
He's
that.
not the cat man.
Oh my god.
Canonically, he looks like one of the Thundercats.
Then he should be the cat man emperor. Sir, you are false advertising me.
All right,
No,
kid.
it's cat girls.
When I think of
Yeah,
cat
just
boy,
cat
I think
girls.
of like that guy who recently left Joe Cat.
You know, I'd rather have it be like, you ever seen that meme online where it's like the sign on like sorry, my voice cracked. The sign on like the McDonald's window of like the plague mask guy with a line through it. Like, you should have like a cat boy sign with a line through it being like, you're not,
None of
there's got
this.
to be behind this. That's
There are. I will say there are more stories of the Euro Party that I know of. I'm just not sure if some of them should be said on stream.
No,
I could
The-
do 2 hours
the-
of stories just about the Euro Party.
The one that I'm currently thinking of is the it's real estate.
It's free real estate. Yeah, that was also in the morality simulation. They failed the morality simulation, by the way. All of their characters got drafted into the space CIA and were used for deniable operations.
Yep.
And then they died in an elevator.
Yeah, that's also conveniently the one where they died in the elevator.
Yeah, they So at first he knew it was a simulation, like a simulation of some kind. Then he told us this story, and he was like, "They already failed the morality simulation. He wasn't sure what to do with them because they failed so horribly."
Yeah, one of the
Like,
players
he
just
said-
got dumped straight into the
Right.
sun.
Yeah, like he said, the scientists were like, "Should we even keep them alive? It's kind of a moral dilemma for us now."
They were hilariously awful. I think
Really were.
the best thing was them like instantly being persuaded that like genocide was permissible.
Yep.
Instantly. It took like 2 seconds. And
Yeah.
it was just because, it would slightly inconvenience them to like not side with them. So they were like, well, this would be kind of difficult.
How did you convince them? Did you explain like the world banking
I
system?
started
or
taxing them. No, they so beforehand they were living in a city and they had never left that city. As soon as they left the city, they had to get an internal passport for moving through the Empire's territory, and that cost quite a bit of money because they were moving around military equipment. Instantly, as soon as they were like, wow, this is kind of expensive, they instantly decided that was it, that they were done with them. And even then, as soon as it like presented an obstacle and they thought that they might die, they immediately began waffling. So
Yeah,
I
not
can see
everyone.
why the funny Germans rose to power in the early 1940s. If that's how,
Not
if this is the average moral character of the Euros.
well. It was 1933, but to their credit, at least. Anyway, I was going to say you can't have a Boston Tea Party. You can't have a Boston Tea Party and not lock in and follow up.
Yeah, they.
Fuck taxes.
I mean,
Fuck
yeah,
that.
players do not like to pay taxes. If you want your players to instantly rebel against whatever kingdom it is, have them actually try to tax them as a normal person would pay taxes. They will.
Yeah.
This is a
That was
DM
a
tip.
thing. That was a thing in old D&D though. There are
Yeah.
all sorts of rules
Yeah,
about taxing
the
your
easiest
players.
way to be like, all right, you guys are rebels. To make sure that you want to be rebels, any official quest you take gets a 20% tax cut.
Old D,
Yeah,
like Shadow was saying,
you can
has
have
rules
the
on how to
king.
tax player characters because it says they will never pay in cash, so the city will force them to do jobs for free.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tracks exactly with what I understand about characters, or players rather. You can have the king like stroll through town, like being carried by naked gelded servants, and the party will be like, "Huh,
Well,
I
good for
wonder what
him.
that's about." Yeah, exactly. This isn't my business.
He must be having a great day. Oh, how much he whips that little boy. It's his problem, not mine. Yeah, the king walks
Yeah.
up. I
I
need you
wonder
to
how
give
much
me
it would cost me to get one
$1.
of those. Yeah, exactly.
Let me hold
One
it.
gold, excuse me?
Immediately attempts to cut down the king.
I'll have
Yeah.
to pour
Zero
myself
hesitation,
out just to
blade at
live
throat.
after that.
Mhm.
How could the king do this?
And with that, I think it's a fantastic place to wrap up the longest podcast episode we've done. Thank you all for joining us today, the audience members. Please don't forget to like and share the videos. The Dinotopia one is coming out soon. Would anybody like to plug anything before we call it for today?
Go
We
buy my
got
book, Sign
everybody.
of the Void.
I agree.
We got
Yes.
everyone's.
Go follow my Twitch. Do it. Watch
Yeah.
the streams of me and kid struggling through Baldur's Gate because what the fuck are those dice rolls?
Dice rolls are great, aren't they? And
Yeah.
with that, you all have an excellent day. And